the zombie emperor in American comics. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 251 The Will of the Strong. Mr. Wang, I hope you take care of yourself. Before leaving, Ancient One gave Wang Yunxiao another deep look, which naturally contained a warning. Of course, Wang Yunxiao was surprisingly easy to talk to, and his attitude was also surprisingly good. He kept smiling and watched Ancient One leave. Poof! As Ancient One left, Wang Yunxiao finally couldn't hold it in any longer, and a large mouthful of blood spurted out, and he staggered to the ground. What's wrong with you? Selena was quick to support Wang Yunxiao and asked anxiously, her face full of worry. Don't make a sound. Let Selena come and erase Roxanne Simpson's memory. After quickly giving a few instructions, Wang Yunxiao closed his eyes and fainted. Now that Mephisto's incarnation had just been destroyed by the Ancient One, creating a new one to walk the earth again would be a long shot. He could finally rest in his coma. When Wang Yunxiao regained consciousness, he was already in the medical laboratory at the Wakanda Research Center, the only safe place. He's awake, Brother Yunxiao is awake. Emma's delighted cheer reached Wang Yunxiao's ears immediately. How are you feeling now? Instantly, several women gathered around, all looking at Wang Yunxiao with concern. It's fine, don't worry. Wang Yunxiao's dry lips twisted into an awkward smile. Really? Let's have Charles check you out again. Ada Wang, still a little worried, deliberately called Charles over. As a zombie, Wang Yunxiao was largely useless to ordinary doctors and medical treatments. Only Charles, with his dabbling in medicine, could offer any assistance. For this reason, not only the women, but even Wang Yunxiao began to consider finding a medical expert to join their team. I'm really fine. Don't you know my own body? Noticing the worry and concern on the women's faces, Wang Yunxiao abandoned his lingering sleep and rose, striking a few self-righteous poses, a truly shameful gesture. You rascal, you always mess around and make us worry. Seeing that Wang Yunxiao was indeed fine, Lane, while relieved, chastised him with a hint of displeasure. This isn't a special case. I didn't expect it. Wang Yunxiao smiled wryly and shook his head. When is it not a special case? Selene interrupted Wang Yunxiao's defense, glaring at him at the end. Wang Yunxiao was speechless. Why did you suddenly pass out that day? Selena suddenly asked. Ever since Wang Yunxiao's coma, this question had been plaguing her. While none of the women blamed her, she couldn't help but feel resentful. Dear, this has nothing to do with you. Wang Yunxiao, understanding Selena's thoughts, quickly offered a gentle reassurance. I never imagined a Lord of Hell's bloodline would contain such a staggering amount of negative energy. Meeting the women's questioning gazes, Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but smile bitterly. This was only part of the explanation, a tiny one at that, to avoid overly worrying the women. In truth, even Wang Yunxiao himself, after draining the blood from the witch heart demon and, indeed, the bloodline of the Lord of Hell within it, only then did he truly understand that at Mephisto's level, the level of a heavenly father, their bloodline held their own will, a fierce will that would never be violated. This was the real key to his coma. Even now, Wang Yunxiao hadn't completely extinguished Mephisto's will. As he fully absorbed Mephisto's bloodline into his own body, serving as the nourishment for his ascension to the Zombie King, Mephisto's will became even more deeply ingrained in his consciousness, becoming a stubborn, intractable malignancy that became increasingly difficult to eradicate. Wang Yunxiao was merely forcibly suppressing Mephisto's will, waiting to gradually dispel it later. Failure to completely dispel Mephisto's will would inevitably hamper his combat effectiveness. This wasn't a problem against ordinary enemies, but facing an opponent of equal or even greater strength would undoubtedly pose a significant risk. It was unclear whether this situation was unique to the Marvel Universe, or whether it was common to every powerful being who reached this level. If it were only the former, it would be fine, but if it were the latter, Wang Yunxiao would have to be even more cautious when absorbing the blood of powerful beings in the future. So, how are you doing? Ada Wang asked worriedly. The other women also looked at Wang Yunxiao with concern. Although he hadn't revealed the truth, how could they, who spent so much time with him, remain unaware? Don't worry, it's just a minor issue. I'll take care of it, Wang Yunxiao assured them earnestly, knowing he couldn't completely hide it from them. But it was clear that this alone wasn't enough to reassure them. For a moment, the atmosphere in the room inevitably grew somewhat subdued. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Can anyone tell me how many days I was unconscious? Wang Yunxiao quickly spoke, trying to break the silence. Seeing that Wang Yunxiao truly didn't want to talk, the women exchanged bewildered glances, but decided not to ask further questions. They resolved to never let him do this again. 3 days, Best finally answered. Only 3 days, that's not bad. Wang Yunxiao breathed a sigh of relief. At least he hadn't kept the women worried for too long. What's good about that? 3 days isn't a short time? Do you know how worried we've been about you these past 3 days? Seeing Wang Yunxiao's expression, Lane was furious. Honey, you know that's not what I meant. Wang Yunxiao quickly put on a pitiful expression. By the way, honey, didn't you say there's information about the mastermind behind the attack on Umbrella Security? Who was so bold? Seeing his attempt to change the subject failed, Wang Yunxiao didn't give up. He asked about another matter, something Lane was deeply concerned about. I found out. Although he knew that Wang Yunxiao was deliberately changing the subject, Lane couldn't help but show a strange look on his face, and glanced at Selena beside him subtly. Who is it? Although he asked, Wang Yunxiao was keenly aware of Lane's little action. After a little thought, he had a vague guess in his heart. This will definitely surprise you. However, I won't tell you now. You'd better go and see it yourself. Lane turned her pretty eyes slightly and said mysteriously. Okay, then take me to see it quickly. Although he already had a guess in his heart, it was rare that Lane also wanted to tease him, so Wang Yunxiao was happy to cooperate. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 252 Vampire. Wang Yunxiao and his group left the medical lab, but didn't leave the Wakanda Research Center. Instead, they headed to Charles's private biological laboratory. Here, Wang Yunxiao looked at Lane, puzzled. Charles and Bolivar are both very interested in him, so, Lane shrugged, rather speechless. She still couldn't forget the look in Charles and Bolivar's eyes when they first saw that guy, the intense intensity, as if they were looking at an old lover. Wow, it really gave her goosebumps. Okay, let's go in. Just from Lane's expression and her familiarity with the maniacal, scientifically inclined personalities of Charles and the others, Wang Yunxiao had a hunch, and a firmer grasp of the mastermind behind the attack on Umbrella Security. Entering the biological laboratory, Charles and Bolivar were glued to the rapidly scrolling data on the monitors, completely unaware of Wang Yunxiao's arrival. Directly in front of them stood a large cylindrical test chamber. A young white man was imprisoned within. His face was grim, and veins bulged from his exposed skin, as if he were in immense pain. Most strikingly, the sharp fangs jutted from his mouth. He was clearly a vampire. The reason for his agony was obvious. He was suffering from a blood addiction, a condition worse than a drug addiction, leaving him in excruciating agony. Vampires, of course, existed in the Marvel Universe, and they were a vast race. Having been passed down for millennia, it's no exaggeration to say they were a vast, invisible empire. Furthermore, the Marvel Universe's vampire empire was far from the superficial facade of the Underworld. While similarly cloaked in darkness, they were not above the spotlight, their reach reaching every aspect of American society and even into major European nations. Perhaps they didn't possess a formidable power on the surface, but hidden in the shadows beneath the sun, their influence was undoubtedly significant, rivaling even the world's leading capitalist powers. In essence, their methods were largely identical to those of the Hellfire Club. Both sought to win over the powerful, influential, and wealthy elites of various nations, thereby cultivating a vast network of connections spanning the globe. However, the difference was that vampires were a race, an invisible empire, and their organization was more rigorous. While they possessed internal interest groups, both large and small, and even engaged in open and covert struggles, they remained united in their dealings with the outside world, naturally maintaining greater secrecy. Otherwise, how could the women have never heard of them before? Vampires. With this, Wang Yunxiao's suspicions were fully confirmed, leaving no room for doubt. However, he couldn't understand when he had provoked those vampires. They're after the Umbrella Corporation. More accurately, "They're after you," the former god of war, as if sensing Wang Yunxiao's confusion. Lane sneered dismissively. "Oh? In that case, there's no need for formalities. Let's take over this invisible empire." Wang Yunxiao's lips curled up slightly, a hint of a smile, a glint of hidden brilliance flickering in his eyes. Previously, Wang Yunxiao hadn't considered targeting these vampires, but since they'd provoked him, there was no need for politeness. He was a man who would never let a flaw go unpunished. Besides, the women now had their own responsibilities, leaving Selena alone, idle all day. It was time to find her something to do. And ruling a vast vampire empire was undoubtedly a very good option, wasn't it? Suddenly, all the women's eyes were fixed on Selena, their meaning clear. "No problem, leave it to me," Selena smiled confidently, accepting the task without hesitation. Naturally, no one objected. "How's your research going? Any conclusions?" At this moment, the data on the monitor stopped ticking, indicating that Charles and Bolivar's research had come to a temporary halt. Wang Yunxiao approached with a smile and asked, "Boss, you're awake?" "That's great." Seeing Wang Yunxiao, both the men were genuinely delighted. Although they usually turned a deaf ear to the outside world, completely focused on their research, they were genuinely concerned for Wang Yunxiao's safety. "Our research has revealed that vampires have a unique organ that converts the blood they absorb into bioenergy. This is the key to their immortality." Charles then launched into a lengthy speech, recounting their findings. "This special organ is crucial to their survival, just like the human heart, and also their arrogance. Furthermore, it has a significant weakness: it cannot withstand ultraviolet radiation. Even a small amount is enough to destroy them. Charles and I are currently discussing whether we can eliminate this weakness," Bolivar added with a beaming expression. His recent research on vampires has given Bolivar a wealth of insights, which will undoubtedly aid his research on the mutant X gene. He's even considering how to replicate a similar organ in mutants to amplify their X gene. Is that so? If so, I have a perfect candidate for a test subject who I believe will be of great assistance to your research. After hearing the two's story, Wang Yunxiao's eyes lit up. If they truly could find a way to address the vampire's greatest weakness, then once he completely conquered the vampire empire, it would undoubtedly be a powerful addition to his forces. "Daywalker, Blade," Lane blurted out the name. Now that she had traced a cause to the vampire, this outlier in the vampire family naturally caught her attention. "Daywalker? Does that mean this is a vampire that's not afraid of ultraviolet rays?" Charles asked expectantly. Bolivar also quickly looked at Wang Yunxiao and Lane, his eyes gleaming with a fiery light. "Yes. He's a mutated vampire, a vampire that can walk under the sun." Wang Yunxiao smiled calmly, confirming Charles and Bolivar's guess. "Please collect, recommend, and vote for me." Chapter 253 Blade Warrior. Late at night, Wang Yunxiao and Selena were in a speeding car, en route to Vampire Stronghold in New York City. "Right here, one of the biggest vampire bars in New York," Selena whispered as the car pulled up in front of a cold storage facility. "What are we waiting for? Let's go in and take a look." Wang Yunxiao wasn't surprised. He immediately pulled Selena out of the car and walked into the cold storage facility, oblivious to the others. An interesting scene unfolded. The cold storage security guards made no attempt to stop the two men's uninvited arrival. Instead, they looked at them with pity, as if they were lambs to the slaughter. Well, Wang Yunxiao couldn't complain. See the markings on the backs of their necks? That means they're all Hage, not true vampires, Selena whispered to Wang Yunxiao. The Hage were a group of humans who desperately wanted to be transformed into vampires, hoping to achieve immortality. Their numbers are immense, the most extensive minions outside the invisible vampire empire. They are present not only among ordinary humans but also among the upper classes of nations around the world. Yes, Wang Yunxiao nodded slightly, indicating that he understood. The two entered the cold storage. At first, it looked like any other cold storage, neatly hung rows of frozen pigs. But as they continued deeper, those frozen pigs were replaced by living humans, seemingly injected with some kind of drug, rendering them unconscious. Both remained impassive, as if they hadn't seen anything, and continued deeper into the cold storage. According to Lane's investigation, there was something else going on there. Soon, a thick iron door came into view, guarded by two burly men. Like the security guards they had encountered upon entering the cold storage, they made no attempt to stop them, instead opening the door with impassive expressions. Dong, dong, dong. As the door swung open, pounding music emanated from the other side. The two exchanged a smile and walked in hand, looking like an ordinary couple. Once inside the iron gates, they discovered a truly extraordinary world, a bustling dance floor, men and women dancing with abandon, some smoking marijuana oblivious to the surroundings, and even some engaging in business in public. Wow, what a wonderful place, Wang Yunxiao muttered with a certain sense of sympathy. Once upon a time, he had only seen such decadent speakeasies in movies, and had fantasized about being one of them. What? Are you envious? Do you want me to step aside and let you experience it all? As if reading Wang Yunxiao's mind, Selena pinched his waist firmly. How could that be? I'm not that kind of person, Wang Yunxiao quickly and firmly denied, his demeanor straightening. Before you say that, please hide the envy in your eyes, Selena said sternly, glaring disdainfully at Wang Yunxiao. Really? Wang Yunxiao feigned composure. He absolutely could not admit such a thing. Sizzle, sizzle, suddenly, bright red blood gushed out from the pipes lining the bar's ceiling, and the pungent smell of blood instantly filled the entire place. Bang! A black umbrella appeared in Wang Yunxiao's hand, opening it to shield him and Selena. While zombies also feed on blood, drawing nourishment and strength from it, they have no liking for such sticky gore. This scene was truly out of place in this modest bar. But now, no one paid any attention to them. Only a small number of men and women who were still confused about what was happening were completely stunned, and they would soon become the prey of a majority. There was no doubt that these were vampires. They screamed like mad, blood showering them. Bearing their razor-sharp fangs, they lunged at the nearby humans, tearing them apart. He's coming, however, Wang Yunxiao and Selena's gaze wasn't fixed on the vampires. Instead, they cast their gazes towards the bar's emergency exit. There, a massive black man, clad in black armor and carrying a long knife, emerged. Even at night, he wore sunglasses, a true expression of cool and pretentiousness. Bang! The black man pulled a rifle from his baggy black trench coat and unceremoniously blasted the departing vampire into a pile of flesh. Instantly, the vampire's revelry was interrupted, and they all turned their furious gazes on the black man. Is that him? Oh no, it really is him, the Daywalker, the Blade Warrior. Upon seeing the large black man's attire, the anger on most of the vampires' faces gave way to fear and panic. That's right. The newcomer was a fellow vampire, yet he chose to become a vampire hunter, a Blade Warrior who could even walk in the daylight. His notoriety was truly unparalleled throughout the vampire community. Daywalker, the Blade Warrior, had been adopted since childhood by Abraham Whistler, a vampire hunter specializing in the creation of new weapons. He was trained to be a skilled vampire hunter, scouting vampire haunts and saving those about to be devoured. Come on, Daywalker, some, disregarding the Blade Warrior, lunged at him with their claws bared. Bang! Another muffled gunshot blasted the vampire to ash. The Blade Warrior's weapons were all specially crafted, each imbued with intense ultraviolet light, garlic essence, or silver. Any contact with them would kill a vampire. Besides ultraviolet light, pure garlic essence and high-purity silver were also two of these vampires' two greatest nemesis. Instantly, the bar erupted in panic, with most vampires fleeing in all directions. Of course, a few fearless individuals recklessly charged the Blade Warriors. Bang, 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 dull gunfire echoed, and one vampire after another was reduced to ash. With their ammunition exhausted, the Blade Warriors still had silver spikes and long swords, which proved equally effective. Heavily armed security guards at the bar's entrances and exits were unable to break in and were forced to remain outside, watching helplessly as the Blade Warriors slaughtered everyone. These security guards were vampires themselves, trained by their own clan to specifically target vampire hunters. But they can never get in, so what's the point? Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 254: A Restless Night. Finally, after the vast majority of the vampires had fled, the heavily armed vampire security guards finally stormed the bar. However, by then, the few remaining vampires who had clung to their defense had been nearly completely wiped out by the Blade Warrior. Capture him. Give him a lesson. I'll make him wish he were dead, and I wish he were dead. With his gnashing, venomous cries, the vampire security guards rushed forward and surrounded the Blade Warrior. This guy's name is Quinn, one of Deacon's most trusted men, Selena whispered to Wang Yunxiao from behind an emergency exit. As for Deacon Face, He was one of the vampire elders who orchestrated the attack on the Umbrella Security Company's special forces. Speaking of which, this guy was quite capable, having risen to the highest level of vampire authority despite being in non-pure blood. This would have been nearly impossible before Deacon. After all, pure-blood vampires deeply despise those who were later converted. However, Deacon's ambitions were far too vast, even purporting to rule the world, a feat even Drake, the ancestor of the vampire race, could not even dream of. It was precisely for this reason that Deacon reached out to the Umbrella Corporation, bringing upon himself a threat he could never hope to provoke. Even as Selena explained this to Wang Yunxiao, Blade was already engaged in a fierce battle with the vampire security forces. Being the infamous Daywalker, Blade easily eliminated the vampire security forces and pinned Quinn to the wall. Damn Blade, you bastard! Knowing Blade would not let him go, Quinn, facing imminent death, unleashed a wave of curses. Quinn, have you ever experienced being burned by fire? Blade asked with a cold smile, then completely ignited Quinn. Ah, damned bastard, I won't let you go. You'll die a miserable death. Ah, Quinn's scream, like a butchered pig, echoed throughout the bar, a truly piercing sound. Tell Deacon for me, Blade said with profound meaning, then turned and left. It wasn't until Blade had been gone for a long time that the police in charge of the area finally arrived. No one could tell how many of them were hags. Shall we take him back for Charles and the others to study now? Selena asked expressionlessly, following Blade slowly. Selena had no fondness for Blade. Perhaps from a human perspective, Blade was undoubtedly a superhero, but from a vampire's perspective, he was the ultimate traitor to his race. Although he had no connection to the vampires of the Marvel Universe, Selena, after all, was once a vampire herself, and it was difficult for her to have a favorable impression of Blade. No rush? As you said, that Deacon is hiding deep within the city. We might as well use this guy to find him. Wang Yunxiao smiled calmly, not concealing his desire to exploit Blade. Okay, Selena nodded lightly, saying nothing more. What's he doing here? Selena couldn't help but wonder as the two followed Blade to hospital. Who knows? Maybe he's here to steal some plasma? While he doesn't have the vampire's weaknesses, he still needs blood, Wang Yunxiao shrugged and casually speculated. Unexpectedly, it seemed Wang Yunxiao was right. Blade was here to steal the plasma he relied on for survival. Well, it's truly pitiful for a superhero to have fallen to this point. However, what happened next rekindled their interest. It turned out that, quite coincidentally, this hospital was a police partner. And Quinn's charred corpse had been brought there for analysis by experts there. Who would have thought that Quinn, despite being burned so badly, would not die? He suddenly launched an attack, not only biting to death a male specialist examining his corpse but also injuring a female specialist. Fortunately, Blade was there, and was able to drive Quinn away in time, severing a small portion of his arm. No. He let Quinn go on purpose. Watching Quinn's panicked escape, Selena suddenly realized something. More than that, this guy knew back at the bar that Quinn wouldn't be so easily burned to death, which is why he came to this hospital that's working with the police. Wang Yunxiao's eyes flickered, revealing something more. Stealing the plasma was just a side job. He's using Quinn to lure Deacon out. Since it's so difficult for us to find Deacon, it's even more impossible for him to do so. This is the only way to lure him out. After a moment's thought, Selena understood Blade's purpose. Yes. It's just a pity for her. Wang Yunxiao glanced at the female hematologist, Kaylin Zhan, with a touch of regret. You know what? She's truly an incredibly alluring dark beauty. What? Do you want to save this dark beauty? Selena glared at Wang Yunxiao, completely speechless at Wang Yunxiao's fickleness. It doesn't look like we need to do anything. Wang Yunxiao seemed oblivious to the hidden meaning in Selena's words, and subtly diverted her attention. Under the gaze of the two, Blade, always so cold-blooded, actually took Jane Kaylin away before the police arrived. But this method was a bit too rough. Amidst Jane Kaylin's screams, Blade simply threw her onto the rooftop of the building across the street. Fortunately, there was a pile of soft garbage over there, otherwise, Jane Kaylin, who hadn't yet fully transformed into a vampire, would have been beyond the reach of even the gods. Next, the two followed Blade back to his base camp, where they met Abraham Whistler, the vampire hunter who had adopted him since childhood and specialized in crafting new weapons to fight vampires. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit conference room somewhere in New York, the vampire elders in New York City had urgently gathered to discuss the night's events. The incident had caused quite a stir, with even human survivors, making it difficult for them to completely suppress it. However, Deacon, a fellow vampire elder, was absent from the meeting, demonstrating how much these pure-blooded vampire elders disliked him. Thanks to Dan Wong and Qing Wu for their guaranteed monthly passes. 4 updates are here today. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 255 Ancient Prophecy. Daywalker, Blade Warrior, still waging a pointless holy war, flipping through the photographs of tragically dead vampires, freshly transmitted through secret channels by the police's hagwams. Godanu, the head of the Vampire Elders Council, wore a face devoid of emotion, his expression completely unremarkable. For a moment, the atmosphere in the meeting room was utterly subdued, the other elders utterly silent, a testament to Godanu's power among them. How many died? Godanu asked calmly after a long pause. The actual number is difficult to determine, as he employed a large number of pure silver weapons, so, an elder replied hurriedly. Go call Faith in, Godanu ordered, disinterested. It turned out that Deacon Faith hadn't been absent from the emergency meeting, he had simply been sidelined by the pure-blood vampire elders. Now, with no one understanding the details of the incident, the only person left was to question him, the real perpetrator. After all, the Blade Warrior had attacked his territory. Soon, Deacon strolled in with a carefree air, settled into his proper seat, and lit a cigarette. It was clear he, too, held these self-righteous pure-blood elders in contempt. You're a disgrace to a race, Faith. If we violate the treaty and gather in large numbers, the human government will come after us. Immediately, an elder leaped to the fore, accusing Deacon of this. Your nightclub is a grave danger to us. It's drawing unnecessary attention to us, even to Blade Warriors. You should know the rules, another elder rebuked coldly. Those are your rules, not mine. Deacon curled his lips in disdain. Faith, be careful what you say. From ancient times to the present, our survival has depended on how we blend in with the crowd, Godanu said expressionlessly. Perhaps it's time to forget these so-called old rules. Unexpectedly, Deacon interrupted Godanu brusquely, completely unconcerned with his position as council speaker. We should rule over humanity, not secretly sign secret agreements with them. Everyone, please understand, they are merely food, not allies. Then, Deacon spoke with unbridled abandon, completely unconcerned about exposing his ambitions. You're too presumptuous, Faith, an elder shouted. Really? Everyone thinks so, only we dare to speak it out loud. Deacon shrugged off the elder's words. We've lived this way for thousands of years. What right do you have to overturn tradition? Besides, you're just a hybrid. Like all the elders here, I was born with the noble, pure blood of a vampire. Finally irritated by Deacon's impudent attitude, Godanu sneered. I don't care. All I know is that this world belongs to us, not humans. Deacon feigned indifference. But was it really so? So, not only are you violating our pact with humanity, you're also provoking the Umbrella Corporation? You're truly clueless. Do you have any idea how much trouble this will bring upon us? Godanu's words grew increasingly irritated, and he wished he could immediately vote Deacon out of his position as elder, but he couldn't. At least, not yet. Godanu, if you keep going like this, vampires will eventually be exterminated. Deacon interrupted Godanu once again, coldly saying this before stalking off without a backward glance. How outrageous. This Faith is truly outrageous. I propose that he be removed from his position as elder. Seeing this, the elders flew into a rage, accusing Deacon of something, with some even suggesting his removal. But Godanu, with a sullen expression, forced himself to endure. He indulged Deacon so much because he knew that, of all the remaining elders, Deacon was the only one who dared to fight, and he needed him to deal with Blade. More importantly, if Wang Yunxiao ever came looking for him, Godanu would need someone to take the blame. While he believed that with his vampire power, he wasn't necessarily afraid of Wang Yunxiao, he had grown accustomed to a comfortable life and didn't want to disrupt it. Wang Yunxiao and Selena were naturally unaware of the internal strife within the New York vampire clan. Even with Wang Yunxiao's formidable intelligence system, it would be difficult to track down these individuals, who were particularly adept at hiding in the shadows, in a short period of time. So, the two set their sights on Blade. Just as he had used Quinn to lure out Deacon, they were using him to lure out Deacon and even more of the vampire elders, so they could capture them all in one fell swoop. This would save them the time and effort of searching one by one. Both believed that if Blade continued his current behavior, It wouldn't be long before Deacon and the other vampire elders would no longer be able to sit back and watch. However, for the next few days, Blade focused on Genkaline, making no attempt to search for Deacon or cause another commotion like that night. It was unclear whether Blade's intelligence sources were so poor that he couldn't find any other vampire bases in New York. This led both Blade and Genkaline to consider offering him some help from the newspaper. Fortunately, Blade's success wasn't entirely in vain. By secretly protecting Genkaline, Blade was able to capture a Harg within the police force, a Harg who was working for Deacon. From this Harg, Blade learned that Deacon was in frequent contact with an Erebus vampire named Pearl, apparently deciphering some ancient text. He also discovered Pearl's whereabouts. Indeed, Deacon hadn't bothered Blade for some time because he was completely focused on deciphering an ancient vampire text. Legend has it that this ancient text contains the secret to becoming a blood god. Deacon harbors a mad ambition to rule the world, but he knows that this requires immense power, and becoming a blood god is the perfect solution. This, however, sparks a fierce conflict between Deacon and Godanu, fueling his murderous intent against Godanu, eager to decipher this ancient text. That night, Blade successfully locates the Erebus vampire named Pearl, a figure even fatter than her pig. Unfortunately, even with her help, Deacon has already deciphered the text. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 256 Deacon's Cruelty. This was also the first face-to-face conversation between Blade and Deacon Faith, albeit through a monitor. Otherwise, the scene would have been far more interesting. After their brief conversation with Deacon, Blade and Janelin set their sights on Pearl, the fatter-than-a-pig woman. They were eager to learn what Deacon's schemes were. Not only Blade and Janelin, but Selena, who had been secretly observing all this, was equally eager to know what the ancient text Deacon was so eager to decipher contained. Of course, this didn't include Wang Yunxiao. There was no other way. This was the inherent advantage of familiarity with the plot. Under the threat of the ultraviolet flashlight, Pearl confessed everything she knew about the prophecy of the blood god's coming. 12 holy souls, awaken the blood god. However, Pearl's version of the blood god's coming prophecy lacked a crucial part and a crucial sacrifice, the Daywalker. This meant that Blade wasn't the first Daywalker in history. Daywalkers had existed thousands of years before, otherwise the vampire race wouldn't have been able to pass down this prophecy. Perhaps these two Daywalkers weren't the only ones in the long history of vampires. Regardless, if Deacon truly wanted to complete the blood god's descent ritual, he had to capture Blade. However, even Wang Yunxiao and Selena, who had been secretly observing all this, hadn't anticipated how quickly Deacon would be captured. Even as Blade and Zon Kalin were interrogating Pearl, Deacon's men had already arrived. A flurry of gunfire erupted as the elite vampire warriors attacked without mercy. They weren't worried about killing Blade. With the vampire race's powerful healing and regenerative abilities, even the most severe injuries could be recovered with enough time and blood. Didn't you see Quinn, the leader of this group of vampires, who was completely burned then, yet is still alive and kicking? Blade was undoubtedly powerful, far superior to these so-called elite vampire warriors. But no matter how formidable he was, he couldn't withstand the sheer numbers of his opponent, who were completely unarmed. Furthermore, he had the burden of Janet Lindsay at his side. Should we save them? Selena couldn't help but ask Wang Yunxiao, seeing Blade completely defeated. It's best to be prepared for the worst. Selena was genuinely worried. Under such ferocious firepower, if something happened to Blade, Charles and the others would lose a perfect experimental subject. Of course, this was all because she didn't know Deacon's intentions yet. Why save them? Wouldn't it be better to let them be captured? That way, we can follow the clues and find the real culprit. Wang Yunxiao spread his hands, unconcerned about Blade's predicament. As for Janet Lindsay, while her death was a pity, it wasn't worth his hasty action. In order to protect Jane, Blade inevitably became timid and, as expected, was subdued by Quinn's men. However, what followed proved to Wang Yunxiao and Selena precisely how villains' talk and pretense can lead to their downfall. While they weren't completely eliminated, their efforts were ultimately thwarted, allowing Abraham Whistler to successfully rescue Blade and Jane. Wang Yunxiao and Selena exchanged a tacit glance and decided to discontinue following Blade, instead focusing on Quinn. They believed this idiot would lead them to Deacon and, ultimately, the other vampire elders. As it turned out, Quinn was a complete failure, completely unhelpful. He showed no interest in resisting and led the two directly to Deacon. Shall we make a move? Selena, finally meeting the real culprit, was eager to take Deacon down. "Let's wait. Let's find the other vampire elders, then we can take them all down." Wang Yunxiao rejected Selina's suggestion. In reality, Wang Yunxiao had another unspoken motive. He had already set his sights on the so-called blood god. He believed that the blood god's blood would have a strong chance of helping Selina advance further, becoming a second-generation zombie. While Wang Yunxiao hadn't completely eliminated the hidden danger of the will of Mephistopheles, the Lord of Hell, within him, he was a true zombie king. The other women had also broken free from the shackles of their bloodline, making them fully capable of further advancement. He only hoped that with such a mediocre teammate like Quinn, Deacon's blood god's descent plan wouldn't encounter any unexpected problems. Looking at Quinn, who was still blaming the failure of his operation on bad luck and the Blade Warrior's cunning, Wang Yunxiao felt a pang of regret. Why hadn't he found a way to deal with him? Deacon was inevitably furious at not having captured Blade despite such a prime opportunity. However, considering Quinn's unwavering loyalty and tireless service over the years, he didn't overly criticize him. Furthermore, Deacon was confident that Blade would eventually be within his grasp. It was only a matter of time. Before that, he had more pressing matters to attend to. Deacon's subsequent actions fully demonstrated his ruthlessness and madness to Wang Yunxiao and Selina. That night, Deacon personally led an attack on Godanu, the leader of the New York Vampire Council of Elders, exposing him to the rising sun, where his ultraviolet rays shone down on him. Later, using the threat of Godanu's death as a deterrent, Deacon forcibly seized control of the New York Vampire Council of Elders, slaying any elder who dared to oppose him. The grisly reality staring them in the face made the vampire elders, long accustomed to a life of comfort and fear, no longer dare to challenge Deacon's leadership. As the saying goes, strength often prevails, and the distinction between pure blood and impure blood is not truly noble. Using the name of the Council of Elders, Deacon summoned all the major vampire families in and around New York, easily selecting the 12 sacred souls needed for the blood god's descent. During this process, some vampire families, especially the 12 purebloods chosen, rose up in resistance, but under Deacon's brutal suppression, they were ultimately forced to submit. Now, all that was missing was Blade, the Daywalker, for Deacon to begin his blood god's descent ritual. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 The Blood God Arrives, Part 1. Now, not only was Blade searching for Deacon Face, but Deacon was also targeting him. He was the most important sacrifice in Deacon's blood god's descent plan. To this end, Deacon even met with Blade alone, hoping to subdue him without a fight. Obviously, his wish was doomed to fail. Had he not taken a child hostage, Blade would have likely refused to even offer a word and would have engaged in a violent fight. This infuriated Deacon, and the next day, while Blade was away, he led his men to attack his base, capturing Janet and severely injuring Abraham Whistler. Deacon even bit Abraham himself, transforming him into a vampire. When Blade hurried back, he found only the remains of the fallen and faced a difficult decision. How should he face Abraham, now infected with vampires? In the end, Blade couldn't bring himself to end Abraham's life, instead handing him a pistol and letting him choose. Abraham had spent most of his life as a vampire hunter, only to find himself transformed into the very vampire he hated most. How could he accept this? However, everyone fears death. Faced with a life or death decision, how many could muster the resolve to end their own life? At least, he lacked the courage. He left alone, a desolate figure. Seeing the image and address Deacon had left behind, Blade's fury burned within him, but he didn't let his hatred cloud his mind. He prepared thoroughly, stocking up on ultraviolet light, garlic extract, and sterling silver weapons before rushing to Deacon's building. After repeated observations, he thoroughly mastered the building's terrain and even planned multiple escape routes. Only then did Blade single-handedly charge into the building. Along the way, Blade struck relentlessly, his weapons and equipment all designed to annihilate vampires. Despite being surrounded by Deacon's men, he managed to break into Deacon's lair. However, Blade never expected to see his mother, who was supposed to have died over 30 years ago. Even more despairing for Blade, After a brief exchange, he discovered that his mother was Deacon's woman. What could their relationship be? Did they even want him to call Deacon his stepfather? It would have been better to kill him outright. With his mind severely disturbed, Blade was easily captured by Deacon and his men, and could only watch helplessly as his mother and Deacon made out. It's hard to say, nothing could have been more devastating. Now that Blade had been captured by Deacon, the next step was naturally to begin his blood god's descent ritual. Blade, Janelin, welcome. Our ancestors called this the Temple of Eternal Night. It's magnificent, isn't it? Outside New York, at the Temple of Eternal Night, the oldest altar in the vampire clan's history, Deacon opened his arms, as if embracing a brighter future. Not only Blade and Janelin were brought here, but also the pure-blooded vampire elders or clan leaders, chosen by Deacon to represent the 12 holy souls, were all brought here. These pure-blooded vampires knew what they would face next, but the bloody realities they had witnessed in recent times made them hesitant to even think of resistance. It's a shame those old antiques have forgotten this place, and even more so the glory of their ancestors. Luckily, I'm a history buff. After tonight, this place will shine again. Deacon's gaze slowly passed over their faces, watching these once arrogant pure-blooded vampires, now hushed in fear. With an unprecedented sense of exhilaration, the Palace of Eternal Night was built for this moment, because tonight the blood god will return, but this wasn't enough. Deacon wanted more, wanted the entire world to prostrate at his feet. Are we not going to act yet? From a secluded spot not far away, Selena frowned and asked Wang Yunxiao earnestly. Gazing at the ancient, majestic Palace of Eternal Night, she felt a sense of foreboding. It's okay, dear. I just want the blood god to descend and see if his blood can provide the nutrients for your ascension to the second generation of zombies. At this point, Wang Yunxiao no longer needed to conceal their intentions from Selena and told her the truth. But, looking at the already taken away Blade Warrior and the 12 pure-blood vampires being pushed to their designated positions, Selena felt that this was not the right approach. Don't worry, dear, it'll be fine. Trust me, Wang Yunxiao softly interrupted Selena, his expression remarkably resolute. You stay here and watch. I'll go and see. Don't let our Blade Warrior die like this. That would be terrible. And, unless absolutely necessary, don't act rashly. Wait until I get back, Wang Yunxiao warned Selena once more before teleporting away, not giving her a chance to speak. At the top of the Palace of Eternal Night was a spacious chamber. In its center stood a unique, dark black object, resembling a coffin. As the Blade Warrior was escorted in, the special device slowly opened, revealing a hollow center, like a giant mold, except the hollowed-out center was shaped like a human. Clearly, it was specially prepared for the Blade Warrior. As the Blade Warrior was trapped inside, the special device closed again, and spikes emerged from within, piercing his limbs and even his body. Streams of bright red blood flowed along special grooves and slowly flowed onto the altar below. Boom! Outside the Hall of Eternal Night, the previously cloudless sky suddenly erupted in thunder, as if foreshadowing impending disaster. Inside the altar, as if drawn by some inexplicable force, the Blade Warrior's blood flowed slowly along the grooves in the ceiling above the altar, flowing through the 12 ancient characters surrounding the altar and dripping onto the brows of the 12 panicked pure-blood vampires. In the very center of the altar, a single drop of crimson blood also dripped onto Deacon's brow. Ha ha ha! Deacon smeared the blood all over half his face, laughing unrestrainedly, like a madman. Deacon opened his arms wide, anticipating the moment when the blood god descended upon him. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 258 The Blood God Arrives, Part 2. Boom! Thunder rumbled outside the Temple of Eternal Night, and bolts of lightning struck overhead. Strangely, however, these lightning bolts caused no damage. As if drawn by some inexplicable force, they flowed into the interior of the temple, dancing wildly and enveloping the entire altar in a thunderous purgatory. As the first pure-blooded vampire was struck between the eyebrows by lightning, the remaining 11 were struck in quick succession, uttering shrill howls of agony. This scene terrified Deacon Fuss's men, who fled the altar in panic. Ha ha ha! Only Deacon, at the center of the altar, continued to laugh uncontrollably, oblivious to the lightning bolts that threatened to strike him at any moment. Deacon's fear proved unnecessary. The lightning bolts seemed to have their own will. After striking the 12 pure-blooded vampires, they linked together, no longer appearing so violent, like tentacles of lightning. Lightning tentacles linked to the brows of the 12 pure-blooded vampires, inflicting immense pain as something seemed to be pulling from their bodies. No, soon, the first winged, skeletal monster tore free from one of the pure-blooded vampires. This was the so-called Holy Soul. One after another, the remaining 11 pure-blooded vampires were no match, each of them possessed by another Holy Soul. Gagan, ga. The 12 Holy Souls let out a piercing, unpleasant cry as they circled around the altar. More specifically, they circled around Dickon, who was at the center of the altar. Come, all of you. Dickon opened his arms, welcoming the 12 Holy Souls into his body, anticipating the Blood God's arrival. As the first Holy Soul entered Dickon's body, he couldn't help but wail in agony, but his expression only grew more rapturous. For the Blood God's arrival, he would endure any suffering in the world. One Holy Soul after another entered Dickon's body, his wails growing increasingly shrill, his expression growing increasingly frantic. Bang! The last Holy Soul entered Dickon's body. After 12 consecutive impacts, his body, seemingly unable to withstand the immense force, exploded. Faith, seeing this, Dickon's men were horrified. Several of his closest female vampires desperately rushed towards the altar. However, the altar was now enveloped by an invisible force, making it impossible for them to break through no matter how hard they tried. But the next moment, they were at peace. As they watched in amazement, dark red blood surged in the center of the altar, converging into a humanoid shape. Who else could it be but Dickon? As Dickon gradually took shape, the invisible force enveloping the altar slowly dissipated. Faith, are you alright? A female vampire asked in a concerned voice. Not anymore. Please call me the Blood God. Ha ha ha, Dickon laughed heartily, feeling more powerful than ever. His eyes were now bloodshot, and an aura of extreme evil surged through his body, sending even his subordinates shivering. Swish, at that moment, a flash of cold light flashed, and Dickon, still laughing wildly, was instantly severed in two. Hidden in the shadows, Selena sensed a malevolent aura emanating from Dickon and, unable to wait for Wang Yunxiao's return, attacked without hesitation. Who could have imagined that Dickon, now the Blood God, truly possessed immortality? Though severed, his body remained connected by strands of dark red blood, which instantly pulled it together and healed rapidly, returning him to full health in the blink of an eye, as if the body that had been severed wasn't him at all. Damn it! Who are you? Kill her! Before Dickon could react, the female vampires closest to the altar rushed recklessly towards Selena. Further away, Dickon's other minions also quickly closed in on Selena, surrounding her in a circle. Meanwhile, in the secret room above the altar, Wang Yunxiao watched with a half-smile as Zon Kalin struggled to free Blade from the special device. Plop! Blade, drained of most of his blood, collapsed helplessly to the ground. Stop! I must stop him! Even so, Blade's mind was still preoccupied with stopping Dickon's Blood God's descent ritual. Unbeknownst to him, the ritual had already been completed, and Dickon had, as he wished, become the Blood God. Stop talking. You've lost too much blood. Your life is in danger. I'll help you, Zon Kalin said, attempting to lift Blade to his feet and allow him to drink her blood. Excuse me, beautiful Ms. Zon Kalin, could you please hand him over to me? Wang Yunxiao said politely. But his words were anything but polite. He couldn't help it, he couldn't just stand by and watch Blade Warrior recover and cause him unnecessary trouble. What are you going to do? Who are you? Zon Kalin stared at Wang Yunxiao warily, like a female leopard waiting to devour her prey. If she were given a gun right now, she would shoot without hesitation. Even so, that hardly posed any threat to Wang Yunxiao. Can I say I'm his friend? It seems you won't believe it. Okay, I admit it, I'm a bad guy. Wang Yunxiao spread his hands, feigning resignation. Before he could finish his words, Wang Yunxiao had already appeared beside Blade Warrior, reached out and pressed him lightly, and easily tucked him into his personal space. All this happened in a flash. Blade Warrior had lost so much blood that he was completely unable to resist. Where did you take him? Let him go. At that moment, Zon Kalin finally reacted and rushed towards Wang Yunxiao in a frenzy, completely oblivious to the vast difference between them. Quiet, beautiful Ms. Zon Kalin. If I were you, I would face reality and turn away. Wang Yunxiao reached out and scooped Zon Kalin up into his arms. Even at this moment, he still forgot to take advantage of her, but it must be said that the touch was truly touching. Let me go, you bastard. Zon Kalin was forcibly restrained in Wang Yunxiao's arms, but she refused to give in. scratching and clawing at him. It must be said that when a woman goes crazy, she loses all reason. In that case, you should go in and calm down. Wang Yunxiao was also helpless. With a wave of his hand, he also put Zhang Kalin into his personal space. Thanks to Zingy EB Linksing for the guaranteed monthly ticket. 4 updates are here today. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 259 Immortality. Swish, Selena spread her enormous bat wings, and with a slight flutter, she soared into the air, overlooking the vampires below. Damn! She can fly. Look at her bat wings. Is she a vampire too? The vampires murmured, all looking at Selena in midair with awe and confusion. Even Deacon Face, transformed into the blood god, gazed at Selena in amazement, but his eyes were filled with greed, undisguised greed for Selena. Idiots! What are you all standing there for? Shoot! Quinn, worthy of being Deacon's most loyal lackey, was the first to recover and shouted loudly. Da da da! The vampires finally recovered and opened fire. With a slight flutter of her bat wings, Selena disappeared from her position in an instant, moving up and down, left and right, leaving a barrage of bullets in her wake. Not only that, Selena cut through the crowd of vampires like a bolt of human lightning, slashing through them one by one in her path, utterly annihilating them. Knowing her opponents were vampires, she had already traded her necklace sabers for sterling silver. Deacon simply watched as Selena slew her men one by one, making no attempt to stop her. His gaze followed her with a growing intensity. With barely a second's effort, Selena easily dispatched the entire group. Honestly, these ordinary vampires, with such a fatal weakness, presented no real threat to her. Who are you? Are you also a noble vampire? Watching his men annihilated, Deacon showed no anger. Instead, he surveyed Selena with interest. He truly didn't mind. As long as he lived, he could always gather more loyal followers. Selena remained silent, merely gazing coldly down at Deacon, her mind racing with thoughts on how to break his immortality. Though Selena's main focus had recently been on the vampires, she had also attempted to find an opportunity to kill Deacon. Unfortunately, her attempts had always failed. Deacon's immortality was simply too insurmountable, possessing virtually no weaknesses. Follow me and rule the world. We are the noblest of vampires, and we rightfully possess this world. Deacon was in no rush to act, brazenly proclaiming his ambition and madness. Idiot! Selena's response was a single, sarcastic word. How cold-hearted. But it doesn't matter. Once we capture you, we'll have plenty of time to discuss. With a sinister grin, Deacon exerted a slight force on his legs and launched himself towards Selena like a cannonball, completely free of gravity. With a slight shift of her body, Selena easily dodged Deacon's charge, not forgetting to return 2 gleaming slashes. Unexpectedly, Deacon was able to leverage the air's momentum, deftly dodging Selena's blows and continuing to charge at her like a shadow. Thus, the two engaged in a mid-air battle. Ultimately, Selena, with her bat wings, proved more agile in mid-air, and with the advantage of her weapon, she slashed Deacon to the ground with 2 swishes. Unfortunately, Selena's slashes, like the previous ones, failed to inflict any substantial damage on Deacon. More accurately, his abnormally immortal body allowed him to instantly recover from any damage. Naturally, Selena refused to give up. With a flutter of her wings, she swooped down in front of Deacon. Her 2 sabers slashed with a swift force, each strike leaving a gaping wound in Deacon's flesh, sometimes even sending body parts flying. However, even if Selena chopped Deacon into 17 or 18 pieces, it was of no use. He would be back to his original form in the blink of an eye. Selena frowned, unwillingly flying back into the air, resuming her standoff with Deacon. Honestly, despite his seemingly invincible immortality, Deacon's strength wasn't that great. Selena could easily handle him. However, without breaking his immortality, she couldn't truly defeat him, or even kill him. What? You're not going to try again? Deacon walked aside, picking up the longsword left behind by the Blade Warrior. He was constantly being chased and hacked at, and the feeling was getting rather irritating. Then it's my turn, with a hilariously cackling laugh, Deacon launched the attack. In a flash, he appeared before Selena, slashing down with his longsword. As she quickly retreated to avoid the blow, Selena's gaze froze. Judging by the speed of Deacon's attack, it was definitely on par with hers. But was he holding back? Or was he constantly improving? If the former, it was fine, but if the latter, things were truly dire. No one knew Deacon's limits. Deacon didn't give Selena much time to think. He stalked her like a shadow, slashing again and again with his long sword. Clang, clang, clang. The two swords clashed fiercely, each collision adding a veil to Selena's expression. Selena could clearly sense that things were truly unfolding in the direction she'd feared. Deacon's power was growing with every passing moment, as if there was no end in sight. Clang, another bell-like roar echoed, and the two were repelled backward, retreating a great distance before finally coming to a stop. This clearly showed that Deacon's strength was now on par with Selena's. Add to that his already impressive speed, and his nearly invincible immortality. Selena would likely face immense difficulty in suppressing him. Fortunately, Deacon's swordsmanship and combat experience were still far behind, and these weren't skills that could be developed overnight. They required long periods of diligent training and accumulation. This meant that Deacon possessed only strength and speed, but lacked the skills to harness them. At best, he could only rely on his immortality to maintain his invincibility. Capturing Selena was unlikely. Recognizing this, Deacon hesitated, instead contemplating a strategy for victory. Selena also had no intention of making any rash moves. While thinking hard about how to break Deacon's immortality, she was also waiting for Wang Yunxiao's arrival. However, Selena was also worried. Could Wang Yunxiao really break Deacon's immortality? Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 260 Selena's Promotion. When Wang Yunxiao returned to the altar of the Temple of Eternal Night, he witnessed Selena and Deacon Faith facing off. Have you fought? Wang Yunxiao asked, frowning as he dodged Selena's side. Be careful. His immortality is incredibly powerful. He can heal any injury instantly, and he has virtually no weaknesses. Selena nodded solemnly. Oh? I'll have to try it then. Wang Yunxiao didn't take it too seriously. In the original story, Deacon's recovery ability was indeed exceptional, but it was far from without weaknesses, otherwise he wouldn't have been so easily defeated by the Blade Warrior with just a few serums. In a flash, Wang Yunxiao was right in front of Deacon, swiftly slashing with the blade of the God of War in his hand. Although Deacon had been wary of Wang Yunxiao since his arrival, he clearly sensed his own strength rapidly growing. Even complacent, Deacon still underestimated him. Furthermore, his sudden and elusive attack was too sudden, leaving him unable to react, and he was ultimately cut in two. However, the following scene, just like in the original play, saw Deacon's bisected body, connected by dark red blood, instantly pulled back together, the fracture healing. Swish, 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 Wang Yunxiao slashed again, slicing Deacon into 7 or 8 pieces. Deacon tried to dodge, even to fight back, but even with his immortality, recovery took time. Even a brief moment was more than enough for Wang Yunxiao. However, the subsequent events unfolded much as before. Deacon, chopped into pieces, was restored to his original form in the blink of an eye. It seems you're right. This guy's immortality is indeed somewhat unstoppable. At this moment, Wang Yunxiao had already flashed back to Selena's side. Well, although he hated to admit it, Wang Yunxiao had to admit that Deacon's immortality was indeed, as Selena had said, absolutely unstoppable, with virtually no weaknesses. Although he had only attacked twice, it was enough for him to accurately judge this. Clearly, Wang Yunxiao had made the mistake of relying on the original plot. This was reality, after all, not a movie, and he had underestimated Deacon, the blood god. However, Wang Yunxiao wouldn't completely dismiss the original plot. Regardless of Blade's protagonist status, the serum would undoubtedly have some effect on Deacon. Perhaps this effect wouldn't be as strong as in the original plot, but it wouldn't be completely ineffective either. However, using the serum wasn't something Wang Yunxiao had in mind. No one could be sure how effective the serum would be against Deacon. Would it destroy his blood god bloodline? If that were to happen, wouldn't all his efforts have been in vain? That's not all. From what I've observed, his strength, speed, and reflexes are constantly increasing. Now he's on par with me. Selena glared at Wang Yunxiao, but continued to warn him. That means we need to eliminate him as soon as possible. Wang Yunxiao's eyes flickered, and he had already thought of another possible way to restrain Deacon. Want to kill me? You don't stand a chance. I'm the blood god now, a noble blood god. No one can kill me. Hey, Deacon laughed wildly. He simply didn't believe anyone in this world could threaten him. Really? Wang Yunxiao sneered, and without him moving, Deacon's laughter abruptly ceased. A strange scene unfolded. Deacon was still laughing wildly, but no sound was heard. This was, of course, because Wang Yunxiao had already invisibly transported him to another dimension. Spatial power was indeed one of the most powerful abilities in the universe. Whenever it mattered, it never failed Wang Yunxiao. It had been the same the last time he faced a witch heart demon, and this time, he had completely subdued Deacon. This is really troublesome, Wang Yunxiao muttered, a subtle frown on his face. What he had to do next would require meticulous manipulation of his spatial power, inevitably colliding with the will of Mephistopheles, the Lord of Hell, which lingered like a thorn in his flesh, leading to yet another round of trouble. But in his haste, he had no better choice. Next, I'll control him. You just need to drain his blood, Wang Yunxiao gently instructed Selena, fleetingly bringing him closer to Deacon. What are you going to do? Will it be a problem? Selena naturally had no objection to absorbing Deacon's blood, but Wang Yunxiao's cautious tone inevitably made her worried. Don't worry, it's okay. It'll just take a little longer. Wang Yunxiao smiled calmly, then focused all his attention on Deacon. What did you do to me? Deacon realized something was wrong and swung his sword at Wang Yunxiao, but the cold blade mysteriously passed through him without causing any harm. The scene looked strange, but in reality, it wasn't at all surprising. They were already in different dimensions, so how could Deacon harm Wang Yunxiao? Wang Yunxiao ignored Deacon's futile struggles and exerted all his power to meticulously control his spatial abilities. The alternate dimension surrounding Deacon rapidly contracted until it was reduced to a thin layer, like an invisible energy cloak, firmly binding him. Let me go. What have you done to me? You can't kill me, let me go. Deacon was truly terrified at this moment, roaring frantically. Surprisingly, Deacon's roars could be heard again. Thanks to Wang Yunxiao's meticulous manipulation of the alternate dimension, he had already freed the area above his shoulders. Otherwise, how could Selena draw his blood? Hurry. I can't hold out much longer, Wang Yunxiao growled rapidly, blood already oozing from the corners of his mouth. Mephistopheles' will within his consciousness began to stir once again, churning his mind with excruciating pain as if it were about to explode. You? Selena glanced at Wang Yunxiao worriedly, but she knew his efforts couldn't be in vain. She bared her sharp zombie fangs and bit into Deacon's neck, right at the aorta. No, don't. Deacon's terrified wails abruptly stopped. This time, they were truly stopped. The rapid loss of blood had stripped him of even the strength to wail. But with Selena's promotion at stake, Wang Yunxiao dared not let up, gritting his teeth and persevering. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 261 The Road to Promotion. Roar, Selena roared to the heavens, her entire being undergoing a drastic transformation. Her amber-yellow pupils gradually turned emerald green, the purple hues that occasionally flash within them deepening, faintly threatening to transform completely into violet. More importantly, the massive bat wings behind Selena's back had grown by more than a third, and the scales covering them had become more delicate, emitting a cold black sheen. It's done, Wang Yunxiao's eyes gleamed with joy, his heart completely relieved. Looking at Deacon Faith again, there was no trace of his arrogance left. As his blood was drained, his ambition and madness had completely left him. The power of the blood god became the nourishment for Selena's ascension to a second-generation zombie. After some thought, Wang Yunxiao did not kill Deacon or banish him to another dimension. Instead, he casually tossed him into his personal space. He was sure that the elders of the New York vampire clan, and even the major families, would appreciate this welcoming gift. Now was the perfect time for Selena to seize the opportunity and subjugate the entire New York vampire force. Deacon was not only a welcome gift from Wang Yunxiao, but also a formidable deterrent. How do you feel? Wang Yunxiao asked softly, seeing Selena's sudden surge of power had ceased. Very good. It's just, Selena nodded with satisfaction, then hesitated. It wasn't that she had any hidden concerns, but rather she simply didn't know how to describe the strange feeling. Could it be the blood god's will? Wang Yunxiao's heart immediately tightened, worried that Selena would suffer the same setbacks as him. Honestly, he wasn't sure if the blood god was truly a godfather. Did his blood hold a will? Don't worry, it's not what you think. It's just, Selena, knowing Wang Yunxiao's concerns, quickly dismissed his speculation, then carefully outlined her current strange sensation. After hearing this, Wang Yunxiao breathed a sigh of relief, completely at ease. It turns out that Selena's current strange feeling isn't a bad thing, on the contrary, it's quite possibly a blessing. If Wang Yunxiao's judgment is correct, Selina's strange feeling is caused by the mutation of her zombie bloodline. Selina's sudden onset of this strange feeling is likely due to the fact that her zombie bloodline is at a critical juncture. If it progresses further, it could be a complete transformation, a rebirth. After all, a mutant zombie is no less powerful than the zombie king. But there's no rush. Helping Selina complete her transformation is no easy task. At the very least, it requires a vampire more powerful than the Blood God. And who in the entire Marvel universe is more powerful than the Blood God? Only Dracula, the ancestor of the vampire race, who currently slumbers in an unknown location. While Dracula would be difficult to find in a short time, Wang Yunxiao wasn't anxious. According to the plot of Blade III, Trinity, someone would naturally awaken him from his slumber and bring him to New York. Wang Yunxiao was determined to use Dracula's blood to help Selina complete her final transformation. Since her transformation into a zombie, she had only absorbed the blood of vampires or their descendant, werewolves. Wang Yunxiao worried that rashly absorbing the blood of other powerful beings would cause her zombie bloodline to undergo unpredictable changes. Since returning from my date with a vampire, Wang Yunxiao had been keeping an eye on the other women to see if they had experienced the same depletion of their powers as he had, caused by absorbing too much powerful blood. However, Wang Yunxiao's observations revealed that Selina, Emma, Selene, Clarice, and Elizabeth hadn't experienced the depletion of their powers he feared. Selina went without saying. The other four women all shared one thing in common: they were all born mutants, and the blood they absorbed to advance also came from mutants. Wang Yunxiao would have rejected the notion that this was merely a coincidence. Ada Wang, Lane, and Best, on the other hand, were in much worse shape, only slightly better than Wang Yunxiao's situation before he absorbed the blood of the zombie king, General Chen. Perhaps only Ada Wang, as she herself was showing signs of mutation, fared slightly better. But Wang Yunxiao wouldn't dare rashly allow her to absorb the blood of other powerful beings again. He planned to take her to the world of my date with a vampire someday to try his luck and see if he could help her complete her mutation. As for Lane and Best, they had no choice but to find another solution. However, their potential was limited. Advancing to the second generation was already their limit. But there was no need to worry too much about reaching the second generation. They had plenty of time to slowly build their foundation. Clarice and Elizabeth's potential is similar, so they don't need to worry too much about advancing to the second generation. In this sense, Emma and Selene face the most challenging path forward. Looking at the Marvel universe they currently inhabit, there are only a handful of celestial-level mutants, let alone Omega-level ones. Jean Grey, who unleashed the Phoenix Force, is one, and Aurora Monroe, Storm, also has this potential, but if they truly expect her to reach Omega level, it's unclear how long it will take. Even Omega level mutants wouldn't be enough to help the two women ascend to zombie king status in the future. Perhaps they could look to the Celestials. After all, they are the origins of mutant kind. Well, admittedly, that's a rather crazy idea. Even if Wang Yunxiao had completely resolved his internal problems and could unleash the full power of a zombie king, facing off against a single celestial-level celestial would be tantamount to seeking death. Of course, Wang Yunxiao isn't completely without a chance. Ego, a celestial who once descended on Earth, had a son, Peter Quill. Besides, according to the plot of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Ego tragically died at the hands of Peter's protagonist, so this presents a potential opportunity. If all else fails, Wang Yunxiao could continue to target the Pengu tribe from the world of my date with a vampire. I believe their blood could also help the women achieve their advancement. However, as the founding clan, the Pengu are also difficult to target. Who knows how many hidden cards they might be hiding? Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 262, Conquering the Vampire Council, Part 1. Having drained Deacon Faith's blood, Selina, as expected, successfully ascended to a second-generation zombie. However, despite further mutation of her zombie bloodline, her overall strength didn't increase significantly. Wang Yunxiao was particularly disappointed that Selina had yet to awaken any supernatural abilities. He only hoped that after her zombie bloodline fully matured, she would gain something. Next, we should go to the Vampire Council. We don't want to keep those old guys waiting anxiously, Wang Yunxiao said with a half-smile. The old guys Wang Yunxiao was referring to were, of course, the elders of the New York vampire clan and the heads of the major families, all of whom were gathered at the Vampire Council. Firstly, they didn't dare leave without Deacon's instructions. Secondly, they were eager to know the outcome of the Eternal Night Palace. Whether or not Duncan's Blood God's descent ritual succeeded, it was crucial to their future. However, they never imagined that Deacon's Blood God's descent ritual would succeed, but it would also bring Selena success. And they were about to welcome a new ruler. One could only hope they wouldn't be too surprised, or even rise up in rebellion. Wang Yunxiao's methods would be no less ruthless than Deacon's. Excellent, Selena naturally had no objection. She knew that if she could completely control the entire vampire clan, she would become a formidable force on par with the Umbrella Corporation and the Hellfire Club, and would become another great aid to Wang Yunxiao. But at the same time, Selena also knew that truly achieving this goal would be no easy task. The vampire forces in New York, and indeed the entire United States, were merely a part of the vast invisible vampire empire, not even the strongest. The vast majority of the invisible vampire empire's power was concentrated in Europe. However, everything must have a starting point, and the New York Vampire Council was the perfect place to start. "Do you think Faith can succeed?" an elder asked the other elders and family heads in the dimly lit Vampire Council chamber. "Why? Do you really want him to succeed?" another elder replied with a hint of impatience. He was now filled with anxiety and worry, and the very issue was his concern. How could he possibly have a positive attitude? The other elders and family heads all had different expressions, but they all shared one thing: they didn't want to discuss the issue at all. More accurately, they didn't dare, fearing they would give Deacon an excuse to cause trouble, regardless of whether Deacon's Blood God's descent ritual was successful. Under Deacon's brutal suppression, they were truly terrified, even their words were cautious. Perhaps the vast majority of the elders and family heads present, perhaps even all of them, hated Deacon with all their heart, but they had long been accustomed to comfort and ease, completely losing their courage and spirit. How many of them could still muster the desire to resist? It's been so long, why is there no news? You say, is Faith truly defeated? Or even, seeing no one answering his question, the elder ignored him and continued to ramble. Well, Deacon had driven this guy crazy. The elders and patriarchs, though still ignoring the elder, seemed lost in thought, pondering the likelihood of what the elder had said. Some, even, could not help but show excitement in their eyes. Tap, 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 at that moment. The crisp sound of footsteps echoed, approaching from afar. Each thump struck the heart of every elder and patriarch present, subconsciously silencing them. For a moment, the council hall fell silent. However, when they saw who was coming, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It wasn't the Deacon they feared. Of course, it couldn't be Deacon. He was currently resting peacefully in Wang Yunxiao's personal space. The two people who had entered the council hall were, of course, Wang Yunxiao and Selena. "Who are you? Where's Faith?" someone immediately jumped out and demanded with a haughty expression. Clearly, this person had mistaken Wang Yunxiao and Selena for Deacon's men. In front of Deacon's minions, these elders and family heads habitually posed, demonstrating their superiority. Little did they know that in the eyes of Deacon's minions, this was as ridiculous as a clown. Roar. "Deacon has been defeated by me. From now on, I am your new king. Who among you has any objections?" Selena didn't bother to waste time with these so-called elders and family heads. She simply unfolded her massive dragon-scale bat wings, sweeping down upon them with overwhelming pressure. Honestly, after observing these past few days, Selena had no good feelings towards these cowardly old men. Not only would they not lead the vampire clan to become Wang Yunxiao's aide, but they would actually become a hindrance. However, if she wanted to quickly consolidate the vampire forces in New York, and indeed the entire United States, Selena truly needed these old men for a short period of time. However, once she had consolidated the power of all the vampires in the United States, it would be time to eliminate them, replacing them with younger, more aggressive, and more courageous vampires who hadn't been corrupted by complacency. Furthermore, Selena would significantly limit the authority of the Council of Elders, reducing them to mere executors. The elders and family heads present all looked at each other in bewilderment. Though awed by Selena's commanding presence, they were even more curious about where Selena had come from. How could they not have heard of such a figure in their vampire clan before? Needless to say, at this moment, Selena was difficult to distinguish, a vampire or a zombie. "Who are you? Do you know where this place is? How dare you speak so brazenly here?" Remarkably, even someone, not the one who had spoken, had second thoughts. The figure flashed by, and the elder's words were cut short. Wang Yunxiao grabbed him by the neck and lifted him high above his head. "The queen is asking you a question, and she didn't allow you to bark here." Wang Yunxiao played the role of a lackey very well. With a slight force on his hand, there was a crisp crack sound, and the elder's neck was crushed. For a moment, the other elders and family heads fell silent again, lowering their eyes slightly, not even daring to meet Wang Yunxiao's fierce gaze. On the other hand, if Selena hadn't thought that this was not the right occasion, she would have rolled her eyes at Wang Yunxiao. This bad guy, what kind of occasion is this, and he still has the leisure to show off? Today's 4 updates are here. Please collect, recommend, and vote. Chapter 263, Conquering the Vampire Council, Part 2. Looking at the shuddering vampire elders and heads of the major families present, Selena's eyes flickered with disdain. But now wasn't the time to dispose of these old men, long corrupted by comfort and ease, so she had no choice but to suppress her disdain for the time being. As for Wang Yunxiao, he continued to faithfully play his role as a lackey. He slipped back to Selena's side and casually threw Deacon Faith onto the long table with a muffled thud. Upon realizing it was Deacon, the elders and heads of families looked at each other in shock. Then, they all turned their gazes to Wang Yunxiao and Selena, bewildered by their intentions. "I'm afraid you haven't realized yet, but this fellow's blood god's descent ritual was a success. Our queen is the descended blood god, and will lead our vampire race to glory," Wang Yunxiao declared passionately, completely ignoring the stunned elders and heads of families. Seeing Wang Yunxiao's endless antics, Selena was speechless. Luckily, she kept a stern face and remained silent, letting him have his way. "You?" Deacon's eyes widened in anger, and he opened his mouth to retort, but only a single word uttered. His mouth continued to open and close, but no further words emanated. Clearly, Wang Yunxiao had flung him into another dimension. The elders and patriarchs could only see Deacon's agitated rage, nothing more. However, this only deepened their suspicions. Indeed, even without Deacon, they wouldn't believe a single word of Wang Yunxiao's story. Wang Yunxiao knew, of course, that the elders and patriarchs wouldn't believe his claims, but so what? He only sought the title of blood god, and he didn't care whether they believed him or not. Simply put, if he wanted to, it would be hard for them to disbelieve him. Puff. Just as the elders and patriarchs looked at Wang Yunxiao and Selena with suspicion, they were suddenly startled by a flash of cold light. A pure silver sword pierced Deacon's heart. Ah! With a shrill wail, Deacon's body gradually turned to ash, dissipating into the air. Well, by then, the blood god bloodline in his body had long been drained by Selena, and he had naturally returned to being an ordinary vampire. "This is a gift from the queen. Are you satisfied?" Wang Yunxiao's half-smile echoed in the ears of the elders and patriarchs. This, Deacon died before their eyes. Instead of feeling a sense of relief, the elders and patriarchs felt a chill in their hearts. Deacon was dead, yes, but he had attracted the even more vicious Wang Yunxiao and Selena. Their situation would definitely not improve, and in fact, it would worsen. Thinking of this, some elders and family heads couldn't help but steal glances towards Wang Yunxiao and Selena. "Ah, you're..." Suddenly, one of the family heads couldn't help but exclaim, as if recognizing Wang Yunxiao. "Oh? You know me?" Wang Yunxiao asked with a smile, but to the elders and family heads, it looked like a devilish grin. "You're Wang Yunxiao of the Umbrella Group and the Hellfire Club." The family head was so frightened that sweat broke out, but he gritted his teeth and revealed Wang Yunxiao's identity. The other elders and family heads gasped at this. Perhaps many of them had never seen Wang Yunxiao in person, but none of them knew him. "Well, since you've recognized me, let's be frank. Now, I want you to submit to me. Do you have any objections?" Wang Yunxiao shrugged helplessly and asked with a faint smile. A stern gaze flickered across the faces of each elder and clan leader present, yet there was no hint of amusement. We vampires have a pact with your human superiors. You cannot interfere in our vampire clan's affairs," another elder couldn't help but speak. Though he dared not even meet Wang Yunxiao's gaze, he refused to give up for the sake of his own power and interests, and attempted to use the American officials to suppress him. What a joke. What does this have to do with me? Besides, you were the ones who provoked me first, Wang Yunxiao sneered coldly, his gaze blazing at the elder who had spoken, frightening him so much that he trembled and dared not say another word. But this was all Faith's doing. "We have nothing to do with it." Still, someone couldn't help but whisper, As he spoke, the elder retreated, trying to hide from Wang Yunxiao that he was speaking. Really? But how did I hear that Deacon is the president of your vampire council? Wang Yunxiao sneered disdainfully. He forced his way into the position of council president. It's not legitimate, another family head argued. Well, it seems, as more and more elders spoke out, these old men, greedy for power and pleasure, have regained some of their courage. Enough. None of what you said has anything to do with me. I only know that Deacon is your council president, and it was he who took the initiative to provoke me. As an apology, you now have only two choices, surrender or resist, Wang Yunxiao shouted in a deep voice, a sharp breath bursting out, and the cold murderous intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. At Wang Yunxiao's side, Selena also had an indifferent expression, and her outstretched pair of dragon-scale bat wings emitted a cold and chilling light. But you are human. Before the elder could finish his words, he was nailed to his seat by a gleaming pure silver sword. Bit by bit, he turned to ash and dissipated into the air. For a moment, all the elders and family heads fell silent, no one daring to speak. The atmosphere in the council chamber became extremely dull and oppressive. Everyone, I must reiterate once again, this Lady Selena next to me is the blood god summoned for this blood god's descent ritual. And having the blood god lead you should be your greatest honor. After a long pause, Wang Yunxiao finally broke the silence in the council chamber. Although his tone softened somewhat, it remained incredibly serious, as if what he said was the truth, irrefutable fact. At this moment, the elders and family heads dared not even to express doubt. Whether they wanted to or not, they had to admit that this was the truth. It seems everyone agrees. If so, let's gather all the vampires in New York to pay homage to your blood god. Wang Yunxiao's eyes gleamed with an inexplicable light. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264, Conquering the Vampire Council, Part 2. At that moment, the Vampire Council chamber was utterly silent. The vampire elders and clan heads dared not even breathe. The bloody precedent was stark before them. Wang Yunxiao's request to gather all the vampires was too much for the elders and clan heads to refuse. Yet, they also feared that Wang Yunxiao was planning to wipe them out. Don't worry, the blood god only wants your worship and submission, not your lives. Wang Yunxiao, sensing the elders and clan heads' fears, offered a reassuring smile. But if you disagree, it will anger the blood god and cause me great distress. Then, Wang Yunxiao changed the subject and issued a blunt threat. The elders and clan heads remained silent. Whether agreeing or refusing, no one was willing to take the initiative. Wang Yunxiao and Selena exchanged a smile, but hesitated to rush them into an immediate decision, giving the elders and patriarchs ample time to consider. They all knew that the longer they pondered, the more afraid they would be to refuse, given their fearful natures. What? You haven't made up your mind yet? However, Wang Yunxiao wouldn't let them delay indefinitely. Wasting the evening's precious time on these old men would be a waste. Since none of you want to be the first to speak out, let me name someone. You. Yes, you. Can you tell me your decision? Wang Yunxiao asked, his face amiable, as he casually pointed to an elder. I agree. Although the elder's family was one of the most numerous and influential among the elders and patriarchs present, he didn't dare to utter a single word of refusal. Excellent. What about you? Wang Yunxiao nodded with satisfaction, then pointed to another patriarch. I agree, the patriarch readily agreed, a fact perhaps unrelated to the fact that only 2 or 3 cats remained in his clan. Excellent. I won't name the rest one by one, I'll take this as your agreement. Wang Yunxiao, more than satisfied, didn't bother asking for further details. In that case, 3 days from now, I hope to meet with all the vampires of New York at the Palace of Eternal Night. Those who don't come to pay homage to the blood god will be considered traitors. Then, Wang Yunxiao sealed the deal, brooking no objection. Don't forget to try to escape New York. I've memorized your presence. Even to the ends of the earth, I will find you. With these final, profound words, Wang Yunxiao took Selena's hand and teleported back to the manor. Whether these elders or patriarchs believed him, or whether they dared to flee New York, Wang Yunxiao didn't care. He had plenty of time to play with them. It just so happened that he was in need of someone to make an example of and establish his authority. The night was long, and I'd never really tried being a queen. The next morning, while the women were all together at breakfast, Wang Yunxiao recounted everything he and Selena had done during that time. The women didn't seem to mind the vampire elders and the head's cowardice and submission, instead grumbling about Wang Yunxiao's wicked humor. They also expressed their congratulations and envy for Selena's rapid ascension to the second-generation zombie. Wang Yunxiao didn't hold back, and he detailed his plans for their future advancement, holding nothing back. It was the first time the women had heard of so many complexities involved in their future advancement. Naturally, they had no objections to Wang Yunxiao's decision. Even Rain, Best, Clarice, and Elizabeth, upon hearing they could only ascend to the second generation, didn't express much disappointment. They all knew their own personalities and had long been prepared for this. After all, they were significantly behind the other women in both strength and potential. My dear, you should also prepare yourself. Join us at the Palace of Eternal Night in 2 days, Wang Yunxiao finished, smiling at Selena. As for why Selena was being sent there, it was, of course, to brainwash the vampires, to make them sincerely acknowledge Selena's identity as the blood god and willingly pledge their loyalty. Otherwise, why would Wang Yunxiao have gathered them together? Of course, Selena nodded, knowing Wang Yunxiao's purpose for asking her to come along. Oh, and there's this guy too. You should take care of him while you're at it. I'll go get Blade to Charles and the others first. They've urged me several times. Wang Yunxiao suddenly remembered Zhang Kailin, still in his personal space. He casually tossed her to Selena and teleported away from the manor. Boss, you're finally here, at Charles' biological laboratory in the Wakanda Research Center. Upon Wang Yunxiao's arrival, Charles and Bolivar stared at him with resentment, nearly giving him goosebumps. Here, this is the Blade Warrior. I've brought him to you. Wang Yunxiao didn't dare delay any longer and quickly threw the Blade Warrior onto the test bench. So badly injured? I can't let you die like this. As expected, the two men's attention was immediately drawn to the Blade Warrior. Charles even quickly pulled a bag of plasma from the test cabinet and fed it to him. Hey, I'm telling you to be careful. This guy is not weak. He's quite dangerous for you, Wang Yunxiao warned, brows raised slightly. Don't worry, we're prepared, Bolivar said, injecting a dark green potion into the Blade Warrior's body. Just as the Blade Warrior regained some strength, it seemed to be completely drained, and he collapsed on the test bench. Who are you? The Blade Warrior asked with difficulty. It's a tranquilizer specially prepared for vampires. It's quite effective. Bolivar withdrew the injection, ignored the Blade Warrior, and smiled at Wang Yunxiao with a hint of pride. Alright, get busy. Wang Yunxiao shrugged and teleported out of the lab, ignoring Blade Warrior. Who the hell are you? Blade Warrior growled. However, neither Charles nor Bolivar paid him any attention, sitting there preparing for the next experiment. Well, lab rats don't have human rights. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 265, Vampire Gathering. Since Blade was sent to Charles' biological laboratory while conscious, his fate was sealed. This also foreshadowed that Blade would no longer receive the same preferential treatment as Mystique's Raven Darkholme, and would be released afterward. As a fellow superhero, Blade's life was inevitably entangled with numerous causal relationships that would impact the subsequent development of the plot. However, since Wang Yunxiao had decided to bring the vast invisible vampire empire under his control, releasing Blade, who specifically targeted vampires, would inevitably cause him considerable trouble and be counterproductive. As for whether this would affect the subsequent development of the plot, it was inevitable. But Wang Yunxiao didn't care. In his eyes, the invisible vampire empire would eventually become his possession. After leaving Charles' biological laboratory, Wang Yunxiao did not leave the research center directly. Instead, he visited Howard, Arnim, and Lawson to observe their research progress on the Tesseract. However, Wang Yunxiao was disappointed to find that their research had made little progress, and the spatial capacity they could extract at any one time was still very limited. However, the trio's progress wasn't entirely without success. With the dedicated assistance of Howard and Arnim, Lawson successfully developed a new generation of hyperbeam engines, more than doubling their power. Furthermore, with Clarice's help, she had already installed them on her spaceship. This sparked Howard's interest in this novelty of spaceships. If it weren't for his continued research on the Tesseract, he would have already devoted himself to the grand undertaking of spaceship development. Leaving the research center, Wang Yunxiao thought he'd finally have 2 days of leisure. He had been completely busy for a while, either plotting to extract a bloodline of Mephistopheles, the Lord of Hell, from the witch heart demon, or scrambling to subjugate the New York Vampire Council. However, instead of a break, Wang Yunxiao became even busier over the next 2 days. To be precise, he hadn't been this busy in ages. Some self-righteous vampire elders and family heads ignored Wang Yunxiao's warnings and fled New York with their entire clans before the 3-day deadline. And there were quite a few of them. Naturally, they were all captured by Wang Yunxiao and thrown into his personal space. Anyone who dared resist was mercilessly slaughtered on the spot. In just 2 days, his hands were stained with vampire blood again, and countless vampires had fallen under his blade. The sheer number of vampires fleeing New York forced Wang Yunxiao to abandon his original plan and publicly execute them all. After all, these were still capable fighters, killing them all wouldn't be a big deal. However, Wang Yunxiao wouldn't give up on his motive for making an example of them. Since he couldn't kill all the vampires, he would just go after the ringleaders. After all, those elders and family heads were useless figures who just sat there doing nothing. Tonight marked the 3-day gathering of New York's vampires at the Palace of Eternal Night. It was sure to be a bustling night. Late at night, the cool moonlight cast a chilling light across the earth, adding a touch of coolness to the late autumn air. Yet, at this moment, the Hall of Eternal Night was bustling with activity. Just imagine how many vampires there were in all of New York. Tens of thousands, surely. Fortunately, the Hall of Eternal Night was large enough and remote enough. Otherwise, not only would all the vampires in New York have gathered there, but the US government would have already been on its radar. But even so, there was no guarantee that no one would take notice. Of course, these tens of thousands of vampires couldn't all enter the main hall of the Hall of Eternal Night. The vast majority were confined to the periphery, with only the core members of each family eligible to enter. This created an interesting phenomenon. The periphery of the Hall of Eternal Night was filled with all sorts of monstrous creatures. Some were neatly dressed and moved in unison, while many were oddly dressed, forming chaotic small groups. Meanwhile, within the main hall of the Hall of Eternal Night, a group of elegantly dressed individuals conversed in low voices, their manners extremely elegant, truly resembling members of distinguished families. Without a doubt, these must be those self-proclaimed pure-blood vampires. At this moment, in the secret room directly above the Palace of Eternal Night, not only Wang Yunxiao, Selena, and Selene were present, but also several other women. As they put it, since they had nothing to do tonight, they might as well come and see what was happening. In the center of the room, Selene's mind amplifier sat, already activated, emitting a faint blue glow. Its power source was the energy blocks extracted and stored from the cosmic cube. My dear, don't force yourself. If things don't work, we can find another way, Wang Yunxiao gently advised Selene. He couldn't be sure if Selene's mind control would work on vampires as well. And even if it did, there were a significant number of New York vampires gathered here tonight, and modifying their memories would be no simple task. Yes, memory modification. Wang Yunxiao would no longer be so gentle with these vampires. He would directly alter their memories, forcing them to identify with Selene as the blood god and wield their unwavering loyalty. This was undoubtedly the most time-saving and labor-saving method. As for any side effects, Wang Yunxiao didn't care. Right now, he simply needed the vampire's loyalty. Other issues could be addressed later. Don't worry, I know my limits, Selene said confidently, slowly placing the amplification helmet on her head. It's almost time. We should go down and meet your future subjects, my queen, Wang Yunxiao said to Selene with a hint of teasing. You still say? Selene's expression was filled with annoyance, yet also a touch of shyness. Clearly, the title of queen brought back memories of last night's embarrassing incident. Wang Yunxiao wouldn't give Selene a chance to rebuke him. He took her hand and vanished instantly. Shui, as Wang Yunxiao and Selena suddenly appeared in the main hall, the room fell into hushed silence. The elders and family heads were all silent, their heads lowered slightly, not even daring to meet their gaze. Meanwhile, the young vampires, perhaps not young at all, but at least on the surface, were more energetic and fearless. Their gazes toward Wang Yunxiao and Selena were filled with curiosity, anger, hostility, and even hatred. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 266, Worship and Submission. Everyone, I'm delighted to see so many familiar faces here, and even more new ones. Wang Yunxiao's voice boomed, echoing throughout the Eternal Night Hall. Furthermore, Wang Yunxiao and Selena were perched high atop the altar. After 3 days of renovations, anyone within the Eternal Night Hall could clearly see what was happening there. This was, of course, all for tonight. Suddenly, the gazes of over 10,000 vampires were fixed on Wang Yunxiao, filled with curiosity, anger, disdain, and hatred. We have gathered here tonight to worship the Blood God. The Blood God is our vampire faith, and we must be completely loyal to her. Wang Yunxiao ignored the vampire's gazes and continued his impassioned speech. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The next moment, the entire Hall of Eternal Night erupted in a cacophony of noise. The pure-blood vampires in the main hall were fine, striving to maintain their elegance and dignity. However, those on the periphery were less restrained, chattering non-stop. Generally speaking, they expressed distrust of Wang Yunxiao's words, even scorn. As vampires, those who refuse to worship the Blood God and attempt to flee New York are traitors. I never expected so many traitors to exist among us. It's truly heartbreaking. As he spoke, Wang Yunxiao waved his hand, and vampires appeared out of thin air, tossing them down onto the altar. The altar was high, not enough to kill them, but enough to sustain them, a mild punishment. This astonishing scene stunned the tens of thousands of vampires, and even the clamor within the Hall of Eternal Night faded considerably. The Blood God is merciful. I will not pursue these accomplices, but the principal offender must be punished. Wang Yunxiao's voice remained high, yet a hint of chill lingered. Just as many of the tens of thousands of vampires were still confused by the situation, the elders of the Vampire Council and the heads of the major families suddenly appeared at the altar. I beg you, forgive my sins. I surrender. These elders and heads were terrified. Upon seeing Wang Yunxiao, they abandoned all else and kowtowed desperately, begging for mercy, their usual elegance and dignity gone. Your sins are unforgivable. Go to hell and beg for mercy, Wang Yunxiao said coldly. A pure silver sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Puff. The next moment, an elder's head was thrown high into the air, blood splattering. Then, his entire body gradually turned to ash, dissipating into the air. This bloody scene shocked the tens of thousands of vampires present. No. Don't come over here. Don't kill me. On the altar, the elders and family heads screamed like pigs being slaughtered, fleeing in terror. Swish, 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 Wang Yunxiao sneered coldly, and in a flash, he caught up with the elders and family heads, leaving a trail of afterimages on the altar, even flashes of silver blades. Puff, puff, a brilliant flash of blood splattered, accompanied by terrified heads being tossed high into the air. In mid-air, along with their bodies, they all turned to ash and dissipated into the air, forming a strange and bloody scene. In an instant, the entire Eternal Night Hall fell silent. No one dared to utter a sound, and the tens of thousands of vampires were terrified and silent. Just as the tens of thousands of vampires in the Hall of Eternal Night were inevitably shaken by fear, Selena's psychic abilities unleashed their full power. Powered by the psychic amplifier, she instantly invaded their brains, yet managed to keep them from noticing. Selena's timing was undoubtedly perfect. The shock of the tens of thousands of vampires' minds made her invasion easier and less likely to alert them. 1 minute, 5 minutes. Time ticked by. Neither Wang Yunxiao nor Selena took any further action, simply observing everything within the Hall of Eternal Night in silence. Yet, even then, the Hall of Eternal Night remained completely silent. Perhaps it was because the tens of thousands of vampires hadn't yet recovered from the bloody scene, or perhaps it was due to Selena's psychic invasion. Blood God. Blood God. After an unknown amount of time, one vampire suddenly knelt deeply, chanting fervently, having become Selena, the Blood God's most devout follower. Blood God. Blood God. This set off a chain reaction, with vampires one after another shouting frantically and kneeling in obeisance. In a blink of an eye, nearly 1,000 vampires were kneeling, including a significant number of purebloods in the main hall. Wang Yunxiao knew clearly that those whose memories were so quickly altered by Selene were weak-willed individuals, destined to become mere minions or even cannon fodder. Naturally, he and Selena paid no attention to such useless individuals. The reason was simple. Simple mental invasion and deep-seated memory modification were two completely different things. A simple mental invasion, if timed correctly, could be carried out without alerting them, as Selene had just done. However, memory modification was different. It would inevitably trigger instinctive resistance, which would then lead to alertness, transforming instincts into active resistance. The more resolute the individual, the longer they could resist. Of course, for those with weaker resolve, Seleni's memories might be altered before they even had a chance to notice, let alone actively resist. As time passed, more and more vampires knelt, wholeheartedly worshipping their blood god. Until finally, only 9 remained standing in the Hall of Eternal Night. Interestingly, only one of these remained, a pureblood from the main hall. These 9 vampires, all of them resolute and determined, had truly caught the attention of Wang Yunxiao and Selena. If used wisely, they would surely become powerful aids in Selena's future management of New York's vampire population. With a brief nod to Selena, Wang Yunxiao vanished in a flash, reappearing beside each of the 9 vampires one after another. He unceremoniously tossed them all into his personal space, intending to slowly refine them later. The vampires around them, oblivious to Wang Yunxiao's actions, simply venerated their blood god. Roar, on the altar, Selena roared to the heavens, a pair of massive dragon-scale bat wings spread out behind her, and a strong pressure swept across the entire Eternal Night Palace. Blood god. Blood god. The shouts of over 10,000 vampires became more and more frantic. Today's 4th update is here. Please collect, recommend, and vote. Chapter 267 Decision. Everything went smoothly tonight. With Selene's help, the image of Selene the blood god was ingrained in the minds of every vampire in the Palace of Evernight. However, it was exhausting for Selene, who was now exhausted. Selene's mental power certainly couldn't match that of the vampires present, but modifying the memories of over 10,000 vampires simultaneously, even with a mental amplification device, was no mean feat, draining her entire mental power. As for the 9 vampires who were able to successfully withstand Selene's mental power, far from being a problem, they were arguably the biggest surprise of the night. All in all, tonight was undoubtedly a very good start for Selene, but she couldn't let her guard down. Not to mention that it was unlikely that all the vampires in New York would gather tonight, and who knew that those who hadn't yet arrived at the Palace of Evernight might cause significant trouble in the future. Therefore, if the opportunity arose, they should be eliminated to prevent future trouble. Just the tens of thousands of vampires whose memories Selene had altered tonight don't necessarily follow her orders from now on. Their unusual enthusiasm tonight was simply due to the influence of the surrounding atmosphere and Selene's mental power. After tonight, when they return to their familiar surroundings, their own interests or other motivations will interfere, and it's entirely foreseeable that their thoughts will change over time. But one thing is certain, they sincerely acknowledge Selene as the blood god. However, in today's materialistic society, how many people can maintain such unwavering faith? This is especially true for vampires, who have far longer lifespans than humans. This isn't to say that Selene's mental abilities are limited, but it's the limit she can achieve in such a short period of time, especially with tens of thousands of people involved. To achieve more, she needs ample time, and it's impossible to target so many people simultaneously. However, in the eyes of Wang Yunxiao and Selena, these weak-willed vampires weren't worthy of Selene's efforts. Only the 9 individuals currently resting in Wang Yunxiao's personal space were truly worthy. He believed that, with Selene's full support, those 9 would become Selene's most devout followers and loyal subordinates. Even if they were offered death, they wouldn't hesitate. After that night, Wang Yunxiao was finally liberated and returned to a leisurely life. Unfortunately, Selena couldn't accompany him. Having just taken over the New York Vampire Council, she had a ton of tasks to attend to, making her the busiest of the women, practically swamped. As for why Wang Yunxiao didn't help Selena, he explained it as a matter of fact, he couldn't favor one over the other. He hadn't helped the others before, so he couldn't help Selena now. Well, to put it bluntly, they had spoiled him, and he'd long since grown accustomed to being a hands-off boss. However, this didn't mean Wang Yunxiao could truly rest. Within his sea of consciousness, a formidable problem lay before him. Every day, Wang Yunxiao devoted considerable time to extracting the will of Mephistopheles, Lord of Hell, from the depths of his consciousness and then erasing it. Unfortunately, the results were minimal, almost negligible. Wang Yunxiao secretly calculated that if he continued at this pace, it would take at least 10 or 8 years to completely eradicate Mephistopheles' will. Such a lengthy period was unbearable for Wang Yunxiao. This compelled him to consider other solutions that could quickly resolve this significant problem. After much deliberation, Wang Yunxiao could only think of the one person, or, more accurately, the one most likely to help him, the Supreme Sorcerer, the Ancient One. On Earth today, if anyone knew Mephistopheles best, it was the Ancient One, with his years of dealing with other dimensions. It was she who had fended off repeated invasions of Earth by interdimensional masters like Dormammu and Mephisto, ensuring its preservation from the prying eyes of so many other dimensions. Undoubtedly, the Ancient One lived up to her title of Supreme. However, Wang Yunxiao's remarkable achievements were not his concern. He simply knew that, precisely because of his numerous encounters with Mephisto, the Ancient One was highly likely to possess a thorough understanding of his abilities and, therefore, a strong possibility of resolving his current woes. Understanding this, Wang Yunxiao no longer hesitated and immediately decided to personally visit Kamartaj to meet the Sorcerer Supreme. However, Wang Yunxiao's current relationship with the Ancient One was far from friendly. In fact, in the Ancient One's eyes, Wang Yunxiao was a threat that required significant attention, with no reason for the Ancient One to aid him. This threat, of course, did not refer to the Ancient One, but rather to the uncertainty posed by Wang Yunxiao's outsider status, which could severely disrupt Earth's normal order. He'd done this countless times, altering the course of history countless times. However, Wang Yunxiao wasn't completely hopeless. He'd just recently struck a deal with the Ancient One, earning Mephisto's deep hatred for him. He hoped the Ancient One would relent in light of this. Even if that wasn't enough to convince him to help, Wang Yunxiao could offer them some terms, like refraining from interfering too much in the course of history. In short, no matter how slim the chance, Wang Yunxiao would fight for it with all his might, trying his best. If he didn't fight hard and try, he truly had no chance. The worst-case scenario was being rejected by the Ancient One. As for whether his personal approach would give the Ancient One the chance to keep him in Kamartaj forever, he was confident he could retreat with ease. That evening, Wang Yunxiao informed the women of his decision, which naturally met with their unanimous opposition. Through what they had seen and heard, they realized that the women were now even powerful beings at the level of Heavenly Fathers. How could they be willing for Wang Yunxiao to take risks himself? Wang Yunxiao tried his best to convince the women, but he couldn't completely convince them. The women's bottom line was that if Wang Yunxiao insisted on going, it was fine, but he had to take them with him. How could Wang Yunxiao agree to this? Just like the women didn't want him to take risks, there was no way he would put them in danger. Besides, if it was just Wang Yunxiao alone, he would be sure that he could retreat calmly, but if he took the women with him, he would have no confidence at all. Since he couldn't convince the women, he could only use his last trick, sleep them. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 268 First Visit to Kamartaj. Kathmandu, Nepal, nestled on the southern slopes of the Himalayas, offers a natural barrier shielding the city from the cold northerly winds. To the south, it faces the warm currents of the Indian Ocean. This unique geographical location ensures a pleasant climate, year-round sunshine, lush greenery, and vibrant flowers, making it a world-renowned tourist destination. However, few are aware that Kamartaj, the retreat of the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One and a sacred site for all mystics, lies hidden within this city. Today, Kathmandu welcomes another guest, Wang Yunxiao, who is searching for Kamartaj. In fact, Wang Yunxiao doesn't necessarily need to visit Kamartaj to meet the Ancient One. After all, Kamartaj is a sacred site for mystics, having existed for countless millennia, and no one can predict the number of mystical traps and other dangers it may harbor. After years of exploration, Wang Yunxiao has a clear understanding of the sacred sites in London and Hong Kong, as well as the one in New York. He can be sure that the Ancient One will appear if he visits any of the 3 sacred temples. But this inevitably creates a sense of coercion. Wang Yunxiao, after all, was on a mission to ask for a favor, and visiting Kamartaj would seem more sincere. Looking at the bustling streets, Wang Yunxiao was pondering how to find Kamartaj when he suddenly saw a mystic in monk's robes approaching him. Wang Yunxiao had sent people to explore the mysterious Kamartaj many times, but to no avail. This wasn't surprising. A place like Kamartaj wouldn't be possible without a mystical barrier protecting it. This meant that without the guidance of a mystic, finding Kamartaj would be extremely difficult for outsiders. Greetings, Mr. Wang. The Supreme Mage invites you to Kamartaj for a meeting, the mystic said gently, approaching Wang Yunxiao. Thank you, Master, for leading the way, Wang Yunxiao said politely. Led by the mystic, the two men weaved through the crowds and soon arrived at a nondescript dwelling, where they paused. Even though Wang Yunxiao was familiar with the original plot, seeing the dilapidated house before him left him speechless. He had to admit, however, that if he were to search on his own, he wouldn't be able to find it even after a year. And even if he did, it wouldn't necessarily be Camartage. Mr. Wang, please come in, the mystic slightly opened the door and gestured to Wang Yunxiao. Wang Yunxiao didn't hesitate, entering the house. He was met with a dim, long corridor that seemed endless and eerie. This didn't surprise Wang Yunxiao at all. He took a step and found himself in a simple, quaint meditation room. He just wondered, was he in Camartage? Or was it a mirror dimension created by the Ancient One? Wang Yunxiao chuckled bitterly. With his current command and understanding of special abilities, if it weren't for the hostility displayed by the Ancient One, he would have been hard-pressed to tell. Welcome to Camartage, Mr. Wang. Please have some tea. Sitting cross-legged at the desk, the Ancient One personally poured Wang Yunxiao a cup of fragrant tea. Thank you, Wang Yunxiao nodded with a smile, then sat down cross-legged across from the Ancient One. Excellent tea. Taking a sip, Wang Yunxiao's eyes lit up as he exclaimed in heartfelt praise. The tea was indeed excellent, but more importantly, it felt familiar, a feeling he hadn't experienced in ages. It's just some simple tea, the Ancient One said with a gentle smile. I wonder, Mr. Wang, what brings you to Camartage? The Ancient One refilled Wang Yunxiao's cup of tea and asked calmly. Indeed, I have something to ask. As Wang Yunxiao spoke, he carefully observed every expression on the Ancient One's face. Honestly, for some reason, the Ancient One's reaction to him this time was much gentler than the previous two times. But was this change a good thing or a bad thing? It wasn't surprising that Wang Yunxiao was so cautious. His current strength was limited, and he couldn't unleash the Zombie King's full power. Facing a godlike powerhouse like Ancient One, no amount of caution was too much. Please speak. Ancient One's expression remained calm yet serene. To be honest, I was too reckless and underestimated the Lord of Hell. Ever since last time, his will has been entangled in my sea of consciousness, unable to understand the reason for such a drastic change in Ancient One's behavior. Wang Yunxiao simply gave up the nagging and went straight to the point, revealing all his troubles without holding back. Even before coming here, Wang Yunxiao had already understood, if he was asking for help, he should act in a begging manner. Being secretive would be insincere. Mr. Wang, are you so confident in letting me inspect your sea of consciousness? Ancient One's eyes flickered with a hint of surprise. For someone of their level, rashly opening their sea of consciousness to him would be tantamount to handing their lives over to him. They weren't trusting each other to that degree, were they? Ancient One Prime, you're joking. Wang Yunxiao shook his head repeatedly. It was a joke. He wasn't stupid. Not to mention that they were still enemies and friends. Even if they could truly become friends, he wouldn't put his life and property in their hands. In this world, only the woman and Charles, who shared his bloodline, could trust him to that degree. So, Mr. Wang, how can I help you? Ancient One asked with a faint smile. Wang Yunxiao's reaction wasn't surprising to her. Ancient One Prime has repeatedly thwarted Mephisto's ambitions to invade Earth. I presume he's well versed in his methods, right? Wang Yunxiao asked instead. Even if I knew some of Mephisto's methods, I couldn't help you without understanding your specific situation, Ancient One said with a slight shake of his head. You know, Supreme Ancient One, this is simply impossible. Wang Yunxiao refused without hesitation. I'm sorry, but I can't help Mr. Wang now. Ancient One also apologized in a proper way. Does it mean that I really have to wait for 10 or 8 years and slowly erode Mephisto's will myself? Seeing that what Ancient One said was not false, Wang Yunxiao sighed in his heart. But he was really unwilling, and it was impossible for him to wait for such a long time. Otherwise, why would Wang Yunxiao rush to become the Zombie King? Isn't it just to be able to face all the storms calmly before the new era arrives? Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 269, The Book of Vishanti. Is there really no other way? Wang Yunxiao stared at the Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One, unblinking. He naturally refused to return empty-handed. I'm sorry I can't help you, Mr. Wang. Ancient One's response was as calm as ever. yet gentle and earnest. As far as I know, the Book of Vishanti contains the world's most powerful white magic, the nemesis of all darkness. Upon hearing this, Wang Yunxiao's heart sank. Then, a sudden thought struck him, and he asked tentatively. This was his only hope. As the Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One undoubtedly possessed the vast majority of magic in the world. She could transform magical energy into invisibility, energy projection, object penetration, longevity, illusions, flight, hypnosis, protective shields, alchemy, telekinesis, teleportation, interdimensional teleportation, and teleportation. But the most powerful of these magics were undoubtedly the white magic and defensive magics derived from the Book of Vishanti. Vishanti isn't just one person, but a trinity of gods, made up of 3 of Earth's ancient gods. Simply put, Vishanti is an alliance of these 3, Agamotto, Ashutu, and Hogs. Mr. Wang, are you serious? Upon hearing this, the Ancient One was startled, unable to maintain her composure, and asked with a hint of disbelief. In her mind, zombies also belonged to the dark side and should be controlled by the Book of Vishanti. Of course, Wang Yunxiao nodded in surprise. Since the Ancient One asked this, it meant that the white magic within the Book of Vishanti had a great potential to help him. Wang Yunxiao also understood what the Ancient One was thinking, but if he didn't want to wait 10 or 8 years, he had no better choice. Honestly, since the Book of Vishanti was said to be the nemesis of all darkness, he wasn't sure if he could be controlled by it, or to what extent. But in any case, this was far safer than opening his consciousness to the Ancient One. Seeing Wang Yunxiao's impatience, the Ancient One fell silent, perhaps suspecting some conspiracy. Your Majesty, I have come here solely to seek your assistance. Please do not be suspicious, Wang Yunxiao said earnestly. Mr. Wang, since you know the Book of Vishanti, you should understand its significance to Kamartaj, the Ancient One sighed softly. Though she didn't offer any specific words, her refusal was evident. It was no wonder she was so cautious. The Book of Vishanti was a matter of utmost importance. I know, but I have no choice. Your Majesty, I assure you once again that I have no ill intentions in coming here, only to seek your assistance. After a brief silence, Wang Yunxiao could only appear more sincere. Meanwhile, he was rapidly pondering how to convince the Ancient One. I'm sorry. I can't risk the Book of Vishanti. The Ancient One shook her head slightly, no longer hiding her feelings and directly stating her position. Prime Ancient One, I beg you to reconsider. Mephistos will constantly haunt me, tempting me to fall into darkness. You must understand this feeling. Wang Yunxiao naturally refused to give up and continued with earnest words. Wang Yunxiao spoke because the Ancient One shared similar concerns and feelings, her consciousness constantly being invaded by Dormammu, the Lord of the Dark Dimension. While all of this stemmed from her own choices, wasn't she also left with no other choice? The Ancient One, the undisputed protector of Earth, had fended off countless invasions by alien lords for millennia. But ultimately, she wasn't a true god, but a mere human. And as a human, she was subject to the limitations of human lifespan. However, how could the Ancient One rest in peace without finding a suitable successor and training them to become the next Sorcerer Supreme? Left with no other choice, she set her sights on the Book of Cagliostro, borrowing eternal life from Dormammu. But precisely because of this, for millennia, the Ancient One suffered constant harassment from Dormammu, luring her into endless darkness. Therefore, she must have deeply understood what Wang Yunxiao said. Of course, Wang Yunxiao's words weren't meant to elicit sympathy from the Ancient One, leading to a softening of heart and aid. The possibility of such a move was almost impossible. Wang Yunxiao simply wanted to make the Ancient One clearly understand the gravity of the situation. No one understood better than she how difficult it was to resist the will of the Lord of the Other Dimension. Just because she could do it herself didn't mean Wang Yunxiao could do the same. There was a certain threat in this. If Wang Yunxiao truly failed to resist Mephisto's intrusion and was led into darkness, the consequences would be disastrous, and certainly not what the Ancient One wished to see. The Ancient One, naturally, recognized the threat in Wang Yunxiao's words, but remained silent, his gaze blazing as if trying to discern his true intentions. Supreme Ancient One, I sincerely hope to receive your assistance. I can promise you 2 more things, provided they don't violate my principles. Wang Yunxiao knew that mere threats would not only be ineffective but might even backfire, so he quickly softened his tone and spoke sincerely. Meanwhile, Wang Yunxiao also included the contract of Saint Venganza he had handed over to the Ancient One as one of his conditions. So, I, too, have no choice. The Ancient One's expression had returned to its calm composure, though his previous gentleness had faded. Ancient One Supreme, I have said since our first meeting that we are of the same stance, and we are all for the protection of the earth on which we depend for survival. Perhaps, our ways of doing things are very different, but we all have the same goal. Wang Yunxiao had no idea what Ancient One was thinking at the moment, and could only continue to talk and do his best to fight for it. Mr. Wang, I don't need you to do anything for me. I just hope that you can really keep your current stance as you said. After an unknown amount of silence, Ancient One finally sighed softly. But it was obvious that she had agreed to the deal. Of course. Ancient One Supreme, please believe me, my stance will never change. Moreover, since I said I would do 2 more things for you, I will not take it back. Wang Yunxiao was naturally overjoyed, but did not show it too much, and just promised seriously. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 270 Holy Flame Burning Soul. Then, Mr. Wang, please follow me. Guya gave Wang Yunxiao a deep look. With a wave of his hand, a portal shimmered with sparks appeared nearby. He stood up and walked through. Without hesitation, Wang Yunxiao also stood up and strode in. Stepping through the circular portal, Wang Yunxiao arrived at a stone chamber. In its center was a conical stone platform, and above it sat a massive spherical shadow. A closer look revealed the shadow of Earth. But unlike the azure blue Earth we often imagine, the shadow was a fiery red. What exactly did this symbolize? However, Wang Yunxiao only glanced at the shadow before his entire attention was focused on the magical artifact on the platform, the Eye of Agamotto. The Eye of Agamotto, one of the most mysterious artifacts in the Marvel Universe, is the most powerful weapon of all the Sorcerer Supremes. It can see through illusions, decipher dark magic, and even peer into the past and future. But none of these things mattered most to Wang Yunxiao. What truly concerned him was one of the 6 infinity stones embedded within it, the Time Stone. As the saying goes, space is king, time is supreme. In any cosmic plane, space and time are among the most mysterious and powerful forces. Possessing the Time Stone allows the user to travel to any point in time, whether distant in the past or distant in the future. The user could even directly manipulate time and causality, trapping enemies in the entire world in an infinite time loop. Furthermore, the Time Stone itself held immense power. The Sorcerer Supreme, Ancient One, seemed oblivious to Wang Yunxiao's fiery gaze. She gently removed the Eye of Agamotto from the stone pedestal and placed it upon her chest. Instantly, a faint emerald green light flickered on her chest, mysterious and powerful. Mr. Wang, we may begin, Ancient One nodded gently. With a wave of her hand, the 2 of them suddenly found themselves in the vast expanse of the universe. Wang Yunxiao withdrew his gaze from the Eye of Agamotto with a hint of regret, then began to survey his surroundings. He had a feeling this wasn't just a mirror dimension. At the same time, he remained vigilant, ready to withdraw at any moment. While Wang Yunxiao didn't think the Ancient One was likely to attack him, he had to be on guard and not reveal any flaws. After all, the Ancient One had already donned the Eye of Agamotto. The power of the Book of Vishanti is too great. Unless absolutely necessary, it's best not to use it in the real world, lest it interfere with reality. As if sensing Wang Yunxiao's wariness, the Ancient One calmly explained. Prime Ancient One, this shouldn't be an ordinary mirror dimension, right? Wang Yunxiao nodded in understanding, then asked the question that had been on his mind. Indeed. This is the inner dimension of the Eye of Agamotto. Ordinary mirror dimensions can't withstand the power of the Book of Vishanti, the Ancient One answered Wang Yunxiao's question without hesitation. So that's how it is. It truly is worthy of being the Supreme Sorcerer's most powerful artifact. Wang Yunxiao's tone was filled with amazement and envy. Then, let's begin. The Ancient One didn't want to dwell on the Eye of Agamotto any further. He extended his hands, and as they opened slightly, a pristine, thick black-covered tome suddenly appeared between them. It turned out that the Book of Vishanti had been with her from the beginning. Its surface was densely engraved with ancient and profound runes. Just one glance at it felt as if one's soul was drawn into its presence. Truly worthy of the great chapter written by the ancient Trinity. Perhaps the Book of Vishanti could no longer be simply considered a magical book, but rather, after years of accumulation, it had become a supreme artifact. Okay, Wang Yunxiao took a deep breath, nodded solemnly, and his expression became extremely serious. Ancient One chanted an ancient spell, and the Book of Vishanti slowly ascended, hovering directly above Wang Yunxiao's head. It finally stopped, automatically opening to page and emitting a holy, soft white light. Wang Yunxiao's expression grew increasingly grim, knowing full well that another life or death test was about to begin. As Ancient One chanted the ancient spell more rapidly, the holy white light within the Book of Vishanti blazed brighter. Suddenly, a pillar of holy flame descended, completely enveloping Wang Yunxiao. Strangely, the holy flames caused no harm to his body. HMPH, Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but groan. The blazing holy flames, aimed directly at his soul, filled with endless resentment, incinerated it, leaving him in excruciating pain. However, Wang Yunxiao knew all too well that if he was to completely extinguish the will of Mephistopheles, the Lord of Hell, which entangled his consciousness, he would have to endure this kind of pain. However, the agony of his soul burning intensified, seemingly endless. Every moment felt like a century. Finally, Wang Yunxiao could no longer endure, and he cried out in agony, as if to release all the pain. Unfortunately, this was only a drop in the bucket. The only reason Wang Yunxiao could grit his teeth and persevere was that Mephistopheles' will was also being consumed by the blazing holy flames. The Ancient One continued to chant the ancient spell rapidly, just as he had at the beginning, showing no signs of abnormality, yet showing no sign of stopping. Wang Yunxiao wasn't sure if the Ancient One was doing this because he absolutely needed to completely incinerate Mephistopheles' will. But one thing he was certain of, if there was a chance to completely incinerate his own soul, the Ancient One would not mind going along with it. In fact, the Ancient One was already doing just that. But again, Wang Yunxiao had no choice but to grit his teeth and persevere. Time ticked by, and Wang Yunxiao's face twisted to the extreme. Unable to bear it any longer, he revealed his zombie body, his blood-red vertical pupils so red they looked like they could bleed. Yes, from the very beginning, while Wang Yunxiao endured the agony of his burning soul, he also tried his best to suppress his zombie body. Because he knew very well that zombies were born from the resentment and foul air of heaven and earth, and undoubtedly belonged to the same darkness, and were bound to be restrained by the Book of Vishanti. Sure enough, Wang Yunxiao's worries came true. As soon as he revealed his zombie body, it was like a raging fire boiling oil, and the holiness and flames burned more than twice as brightly. Today's fourth update is here. Please collect, recommend, and vote. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Return with a full load. Endless agony constantly assaulted Wang Yunxiao's mind, leaving him agonized. Every moment felt like an eternity. Especially after Wang Yunxiao couldn't resist manifesting his zombie form, the flames raged even more fiercely, causing the already blazing holy fire to surge even more than double. The agony he inflicted was far more than could be described. More importantly, Wang Yunxiao could clearly see Ancient One's expression grow increasingly serious, his chanting of the ancient incantation growing increasingly rapid. His worst fears had finally come true. At that moment, even with Wang Yunxiao's unwavering resolve, he was nearing utter despair. Yet, at that very moment, a sudden, refreshing coolness welled up from within Wang Yunxiao's soul, profoundly alleviating his agony. It felt like drinking cool spring water in a scorching desert sun, a refreshing relief. Unfortunately, this relief was fleeting. Before Wang Yunxiao could savor it, the blazing holy fire, as if discovering a natural enemy, suddenly intensified in its fury. Fortunately, this coolness was able to sustain Wang Yunxiao's final resolve, allowing him to grit his teeth and persevere. Furthermore, as the holy flames grew more intense and violent, the will of Mephistopheles, Lord of Hell, entangled within the depths of Wang Yunxiao's consciousness, finally began to weaken and began to be consumed at a visible rate. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Yunxiao's roar, while still filled with pain, was now filled with surprise, a sense of unbridled abandon, and a sense of boldness. Under the burning holy flames, Wang Yunxiao's soul underwent a drastic transformation, completely shedding its human form. Its head resembled a dog, its ears like a rabbit, its hair like a lion, its belly like a clam, its scales like a carp, its front claws like an eagle, its hind claws like a tiger, and its wings like a yinglong. The knowledgeable Ancient One instantly recognized this beast, the ancient northern beast from the legends of the ancient eastern nation, the pinnacle of zombies, the How. It wasn't just Wang Yunxiao's soul that changed, his zombie body, too. His blood-red pupils grew deeper and purer, his once jet-black hair turned snow-white. A pair of wide dragon wings spread from his back, and a layer of dark blue flames ignited throughout his body. Seeing this, the Ancient One realized that there was no way out. Unless she desperately mobilized the power of the Time Stone with all her might. However, even as this thought arose, the Ancient One keenly sensed that the dark blue flames blazing on Wang Yunxiao's body were more than just flames. They contained a power no less powerful than the Time Stone, the power of the Space Stone. With a silent sigh of want and shame, the Ancient One paused, reciting the ancient incantation without hesitation. The Book of Vishanti returned to her hands, where she had hidden it. Ha! Thank you, Ancient One, for your assistance. Wang Yunxiao laughed heartily, and without even putting away her zombie body, she cupped her fists and bowed gently to the Ancient One. But she never mentioned the Ancient One's covert actions. You're welcome, Mr. Wang, the Ancient One said calmly. From beginning to end, her expression remained as calm and indifferent as ever, never betraying a trace of her inner feelings. The Infinity Stones are truly the most powerful treasures in the universe. Ancient One, you've lived with the Time Stone for years. So I'm sure you can do me another favor. Wang Yunxiao gazed deeply at the eye of Agamotto on the Ancient One's chest and said with a smile. Please speak, the Ancient One said calmly, his expression unchanged. I would like to ask, Ancient One, is there a way to retrieve the Space Stone without damaging the Cosmic Cube? You know, there are many people eyeing it, and I don't want others to know that the Space Stone is in my possession right now. Wang Yunxiao posed her question without concealing her purpose. Is that so? I have an alchemical spell that should be of some help. The Ancient One pondered for a moment, then readily offered a solution. Thank you, Wang Yunxiao smiled contentedly, memorizing the incantations and precautions for this alchemical spell. Initially, Wang Yunxiao had been hesitant about the Cosmic Cube, and he certainly wasn't confident handing it over to the Ancient One. Now, with this alchemical spell, everything was easily resolved. While he knew nothing about magic, Selene was a master, so a simple alchemical spell shouldn't be too much of a challenge for her. The Ancient One, presumably, understood this all too well. Both of them understood this was another deal. Wang Yunxiao's payment was a promise to stop investigating the Ancient One's recent covert actions. It's getting late, so I won't bother you today. The two promises I made are permanent. If the Ancient One needs anything, please send someone to notify me at any time. Satisfied, Wang Yunxiao didn't want to linger any longer. So much time had passed, and who knew how worried the woman must be by now. Goodbye. Thinking of this, Wang Yunxiao's eagerness to return home intensified. Without waiting for the Ancient One to say anything, he teleported out of the eye of Agamotto's interior. Clearly, without the Ancient One wielding the Time Stone, even the eye couldn't contain Wang Yunxiao. I'm back. In a flash, Wang Yunxiao was back in the Wakanda Palace. Not only were the women present, but Howard and the others were also present. Upon seeing Wang Yunxiao's return, they immediately gathered around him. Are you alright? Ada Wong asked with concern. Puff. Meeting their concerned gazes, Wang Yunxiao was about to smile and say, I'm fine, but the pain in his soul could no longer be suppressed. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes dimmed, his face pale to the point of being completely devoid of color. How could Wang Yunxiao, his soul unprotected and burned for so long by the white magic fire of the Book of Vishanti, remain unscathed? Don't look at how Wang Yunxiao acted as if nothing had happened in front of Ancient One just now, but in fact, it was all a pretense. Otherwise he would not have been able to obtain the alchemy magic from Ancient One so easily. Don't worry, I'm fine. Fortunately, this time, Wang Yunxiao did not faint again, and quickly raised his hand to stop everyone from sending him to the medical laboratory of the research center for examination. Still trying to hold on, are you making us worried to death? Lane was the most impatient and could not help but scold. It's useless, ordinary medical means can't heal my injuries. This is a damage to the soul, and it can only be slowly healed with time. Wang Yunxiao smiled bitterly, and simply stopped hiding it, telling the whole story of his trip. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 272 Dead Apostle Serum. All in all, while this trip was quite a journey, by comparison, I've gained quite a bit. It's only my soul that's been damaged, but after a while of recuperation, it'll be fine. Finally, Wang Yunxiao offered some comfort to the women. Really? You're always so reckless. I knew I shouldn't have let you go alone. It's decided. From now on, wherever you go, you must bring us sisters with you. At least one of us. Unfortunately, the women weren't impressed, and they inevitably railed and berated him again, until Wang Yunxiao signed countless unequal treaties. Alright, tell me about that alchemical magic. I'm not very knowledgeable in this area, and I need some time to study it. Selene finally got down to business. She knew how seriously Wang Yunxiao took this matter, otherwise, Howard, Arnim, and Lawson wouldn't have needed to devote themselves to it. Okay, Wang Yunxiao quickly explained the alchemical magic in detail. Selene was the only one who seemed lost in thought, while the others seemed completely bewildered. However, this didn't stop some from developing a keen interest in the mystical science of the magic gate. Needless to say, these people were referring to scientific enthusiasts like Howard. They believed that interpreting the mystical science through science would be a significant boon to their future research. After all, magic encompasses a vast range of fields. Alchemy and alchemy alone, to mention other areas, were enough to excite their curiosity. Howard, a leading inventor, was particularly drawn to alchemy, eager to dive right in and delve into it. Unfortunately, Selene admitted that she hadn't delved deeply into alchemy. As for the other women, they showed little interest in magic. They already possessed considerable supernatural abilities, so why bother exploring something so far away? Perhaps, one day, when they had fully developed their supernatural abilities, they might consider magic. Come to think of it, wasn't Selene the same? The long years had given her ample time to develop her spiritual abilities to their full potential, allowing her to begin studying magic and perfectly integrate them with her spiritual abilities. Alright, you don't have to look at me like that. If I get a chance, I'll have people collect as many magical texts as I can. Seeing Howard and the others glaring at him eagerly again, Wang Yunxiao felt helpless and had to make a promise. But, don't even think about Kamartaj anytime soon. You all know the reason. At the same time, Wang Yunxiao poured cold water on them, fearing they might set their sights on Kamartaj. If there was a single place in the world with the largest collection of magical texts, it would undoubtedly be Kamartaj, the sacred place of mystics. Don't worry, we're not stupid. But Selene should have quite a few magical texts, right? Howard retorted grumpily, then turned his attention back to Selene. My collection consists solely of dark magic, extremely dangerous and unsuitable for you, Selene shrugged nonchalantly. However, I do know that besides Kamartaj, there are two other places that must contain a vast collection of magical tomes. Before Howard could respond, Selene added with a faint smile. Where? Howard asked hastily. Charles and the others remained silent, but they all cast hopeful glances at Selene. The Holy See, Selene simply uttered the name, her smile growing wider. Upon hearing this, the hopeful glances of Howard and the others dimmed. While the Holy See, once a force of influence spanning Europe after World War II, had long since lost its medieval heyday, it was still a formidable force. To provoke those fanatical lunatics simply for a few magical tomes would be a deeply unprofitable proposition. What about the other place? Howard couldn't help but ask. Then you'll have to leave it to Selena. I believe that with so many vampires in existence, they must have a considerable collection of books. Selene's response this time didn't disappoint Howard and the others, but it also successfully turned the spotlight on Selena. You wicked woman, I'll let Yunxiao deal with you tonight. Selena glared at Selena unhappily. Come on, who's afraid of who? Selene wasn't frightened at all. Instead, she acted eager to fight, not forgetting to give Wang Yunxiao a flirtatious glance. Wang Yunxiao quickly turned her eyes to her nose, not wanting to get involved in the battle between the two women. Coward, Selene, still unwilling to let Wang Yunxiao go, muttered provocatively. What else could Wang Yunxiao do? He could only pretend he hadn't heard. I'll have them hand over all their collections of books later. But don't get your hopes up too high. The true strength of the vampire race lies in Europe. Seeing Howard and the others eagerly looking at her, Selena spoke quickly, but didn't finish her words. No problem, we can wait. Howard and the others exchanged glances and said in unison, leaving Selena speechless. If you want me to expedite the process, that's fine. Charles, Bolivar, What kind of dead apostle serum can you give me? However, Selena wasn't one to be passive. With a flick of her beautiful eyes, she had an idea, and as she spoke, she threw the problem back to Charles and Bolivar. The so-called dead apostle serum, a super serum that can weaken, or even eliminate, vampires' weaknesses like ultraviolet rays, garlic extract, and pure silver, is what Charles and Bolivar are currently focusing on. Furthermore, the dead apostle serum has a crucial effect. It can suppress a vampire's thirst for blood, potentially making it addictive. Once developed, it will greatly benefit Selena's control over the vampire clan. That's right, I'm saying, can you two do it? It's been so long, and there's still no progress. Howard, a guy without a stance, immediately turned his gun around and criticized Charles and Bolivar. There has been progress, and I believe there will be good news soon. However, this is only type I, and it still has a big flaw. It can only slightly resist ultraviolet rays. As a result, Charles ignored Howard and told Selena directly about their research progress. But if it's just to let vampires walk in the sun, there will be no problem, Bolivar added confidently. They naturally knew Selena's requirements. That's enough, Selena smiled with satisfaction. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. Chapter 273 Crazy Decision. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was already 1994. On that day, deep in the snowy mountains of Wakanda, a group of uninvited guests arrived, Wang Yunxiao, several women, Howard, and others. Their expressions were unusually serious, especially Wang Yunxiao and Selene, as if something big was about to happen. Indeed. They had come today to accomplish something momentous, a matter of vital importance to Wang Yunxiao, one that might even determine his future. That was Wang Yunxiao's task, to retrieve the Space Stone from the Tesseract. After nearly 2 years of recuperation, Wang Yunxiao's spiritual damage had completely healed. His greatest surprise wasn't his ability to unleash the full might of the Zombie King, reaching a sub-celestial level of combat power, but his ability to finally sense the presence of the Space Stone within the Tesseract. Are you ready? Wang Yunxiao asked Selene solemnly. Yes, Selene nodded slightly, her expression brimming with confidence. She had already mastered the alchemical magic 6 months ago and had conducted numerous experiments, so naturally, there wouldn't be any problems. What about you? Are you really going to do this? Selene hesitated, casting a worried look at Wang Yunxiao. It turned out that Wang Yunxiao wasn't just trying to extract the Space Stone from the Tesseract today, he was also attempting to refine it and use it for his own benefit. Undoubtedly, if Wang Yunxiao succeeded, it was hard to say how much his power would skyrocket, but it would undoubtedly lay a solid foundation for his future development of special abilities. However, the risks were immense. The Infinity Stones, the most powerful treasures in the Marvel Universe, were far from easy to refine. And if the refining failed, who knew what would happen? Throughout the Marvel multiverse, no one, save the Goddess of Vengeance, had ever been able to fully refine the Infinity Stones. Even the Sorcerer Supreme, the Ancient One, needed the Eye of Agamotto to unleash the power of the Time Stone. But considering the potential benefits of refining the Space Gem, Wang Yunxiao still felt the risk was worth it. Initially, the women were adamantly opposed to Wang Yunxiao's near madness, but he was determined, and their opposition ultimately ended in disappointment. They could only bear this unknown risk with him. Wang Yunxiao had naturally tried to dissuade them, but to no avail. The women were equally resolute, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't change their minds. As for Howard and the others, forget it. He didn't bother to persuade them anymore, let them all come. Begin. Wang Yunxiao took a deep breath, gently removed the cosmic cube, and placed it before him, then nodded firmly. All right, Selene sighed softly, her expression becoming solemn as she uttered ancient incantations. Instantly, a soft white light rose from Selene's hands, growing larger and purer. Go. When the ball of white light reached its peak, Selene thrust her hands forward, sending the ball of white light hurtling towards the cosmic cube. Buzz! Under everyone's tense gaze, the cosmic cube trembled slightly before resting peacefully within the ball of white light, without incident. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but then glanced at Wang Yunxiao with worry. They all knew the most crucial, most dangerous moment was finally approaching. Whoosh! Wang Yunxiao let out a long, heavy breath, his expression becoming more serious than ever. He slowly reached out a hand and grasped the cosmic cube, enveloped in the ball of white light. His hand was remarkably steady, akin to his current state of mind. Boom! As soon as Wang Yunxiao's hand touched the cosmic cube, he felt a sudden burst of thunder in his mind. If his soul hadn't been able to focus deeply, tempered by the burning fire of white magic from the Book of Vishanti, he would have lost consciousness completely, just like the previous 2 times. Buzz! The cosmic cube suddenly began to vibrate incessantly, as if sensing Wang Yunxiao's intentions, instinctively struggling violently. For a moment, Wang Yunxiao and the cosmic cube were locked in a stalemate. Although he hadn't expected such intense resistance from cosmic magic, Wang Yunxiao wasn't overly surprised. He immediately concentrated all his mental energy and launched a powerful attack on the cryptic space gem. Boom! An even more intense roar exploded within Wang Yunxiao's mind, like a cosmic explosion, threatening to shatter his soul. Roar! The reunited soul once again transformed into a mortal beast, emitting a ferocious roar as it clawed at the shimmering space gem. Outside, everyone witnessed only the cosmic cube suddenly erupt in a blinding blue light. Wang Yunxiao bore the brunt of the impact, his body trembling violently, his exposed skin cracking inch by inch, and his flesh and bones melting at a visible rate. More crucially, his eyes dimmed, until they completely lost all their brilliance. Their hearts sank to the bottom of the valley, and they allowed the surging energy to sweep them away, unresisting. Selene, who was closest to Wang Yunxiao, was especially affected. A trace of blood stained the corner of her mouth, and her face was completely pale. But the next moment, they immediately scrambled to their feet, desperately rushing towards Wang Yunxiao, braving the ever-increasing surge of energy. And just then, a scene filled them with both surprise and delight, rekindling a fiery spark of hope in their already despairing hearts. Roar! Wang Yunxiao roared to the sky, his sharp zombie fangs bulging, his blood-red pupils gleaming with a captivating brilliance. A pair of vast dragon wings spread from his back, and a faint blue flame ignited from his entire body. Enveloped in this thick blue flame, Wang Yunxiao's dire condition was instantly alleviated. His cracked skin and melted flesh began to heal and regenerate. Come out! After an unknown amount of time, Wang Yunxiao's roar echoed as the cosmic cube limbed, its surging energy dissipating. Finally, the cosmic cube completely lost its former brilliance, lying quietly in Wang Yunxiao's hands. If it weren't for the faint blue glimmers it occasionally gleamed, it would have been no different from any other blue crystal. However, Wang Yunxiao was relieved to find that despite the loss of the space stone, the cosmic cube had not been destroyed, remaining intact as he had hoped. He believed that, with enough space stones inside, it should return to its former glory, at least superficially. As for whether this could be concealed from those with ulterior motives, that was all that remained to fate. Please bookmark, recommend, and vote. Chapter 274 Special Container? Brother Yunxiao, are you okay? Everyone, oblivious to their own distress, immediately gathered around, carefully checking Wang Yunxiao's condition. Emma inquired anxiously. I'm fine. If you don't believe me, just look. Wang Yunxiao smiled softly and soothed. To demonstrate his unharmed condition, he even sheathed his zombie king body, allowing everyone to examine him more clearly. Sure enough, aside from the extensive damage to his clothes and the dusty, grimy appearance that made Wang Yunxiao appear somewhat disheveled, his seemingly horrific injuries had completely healed, bringing peace of mind to everyone. Did it work? Ada Wang then asked curiously. How could it be that simple? Wang Yunxiao smiled wryly and shook his head. Everyone's newly relieved fears rose again, fearing they would hear more bad news from Wang Yunxiao. But don't worry. While the space gem hasn't accepted me yet, it no longer rejects me. Well, how should I put it? Fortunately, Wang Yunxiao's next words reassured everyone. I'm kind of a container, like the cosmic cube, Wang Yunxiao said after a moment's thought, a look of surprise on his face. It turned out that Wang Yunxiao had overestimated the space stone, believing that with his zombie king body, he could refine it. However, after enduring a near-death experience, he had become little more than a temporary container for the space stone. As for unleashing the full power of the space stone, the ability to freeze, distort, or rearrange space at will, or even create new ones, that was out of the question. Is this really alright? Everyone looked at each other in confusion, with Selene frowning. It's okay. It seems that even though the space stone is a hostile guest, it still pays its rent, Wang Yunxiao said with a slight smile, his lips curled up in surprise. Well, Wang Yunxiao hadn't gained nothing this time. At least now he no longer had to worry about special energy and could collect rent from the space stone anytime, anywhere. Moreover, Wang Yunxiao had a vague feeling that his gains weren't limited to this. Not only was a new special ability brewing within him, waiting to be developed, but it seemed as if even more nebulae, hidden within the mysterious depths of his consciousness, were opening their arms to him. But now wasn't the right time to examine it in detail. They would have to study it more slowly later. Hearing Wang Yunxiao's words, everyone felt reassured and stopped probing further. What are you going to do with this thing? Are you going to continue with the previous plan? Howard asked, looking at the cosmic cube in his hand again with a quizzical expression. Can you make that energy conversion device you developed smaller and more portable? Wang Yunxiao asked, slightly embarrassed. Well, Wang Yunxiao hadn't anticipated how things would turn out. The space stone was now completely out of his control, making it impossible to extract it from his body. It shouldn't be a problem. You should ask Arnim for details, Howard said with a shrug. He was in a genuinely good mood right now, not only because Wang Yunxiao was safe, but also because he could finally research things that interested him, like spaceships, the Kree Empire's advanced technology, and even alchemy. It's worth noting that, as a race that has existed for thousands of years, the vampire clan possesses a truly impressive collection of magical texts. Just the various New York family heads alone possess a wealth of magical texts. A small library dedicated to magical texts has now been established at the research center. Got it. It's up to you to research whatever you wish. Wang Yunxiao, knowing full well what Howard was thinking, glared at him unpleasantly. He, Howard, unfazed, continued to chuckle, his mind probably elsewhere. Boss, tell me what you're looking for. Seeing Wang Yunxiao's gaze again, Arnim asked cheerfully, his expression relaxed. Simply streamlining the existing energy converter wouldn't be a big deal for him. I don't have many requirements. As long as it's convenient for me to use anytime, anywhere. Wang Yunxiao wasn't polite. Although he said he didn't have many requirements, he kept talking endlessly, making Arnim's face darken. The women looked on with a mixture of anger and amusement, knowing that Wang Yunxiao was just playing around with his bad taste again, bullying an honest person. Howard and the others quickly noticed something, but they weren't good people either. They had no intention of helping Arnim, and were content to watch the fun. Boss, let's test whether the current cosmic cube can still store special energy, and whether there are any other limitations. Lawson, with a kind heart, spoke up for Arnim. Okay, business was urgent, so Wang Yunxiao put aside his playful thoughts and immediately joined the others in the research center, heading to Arnim's laboratory. What do I need to do? Wang Yunxiao asked nervously, seeing that Arnim had already placed the cosmic cube on a complex instrument. Even though the cosmic cube had been perfectly preserved, it was useless without the ability to store vast amounts of special energy. It's simple. Just input special energy here, Arnim said, pointing to the circular platform at the other end of the instrument. Is that it? Wang Yunxiao asked uncertainly as he approached the platform. He felt a bit lost. Was he being told to stand on it? Well, in a way, while he was now akin to the cosmic cube, he wasn't an object, but a living being, and certainly didn't want to be a guinea pig for some experiment. Yes, right there, Arnim said without turning back, already approaching a monitor. It was clear he was being retaliatory. So, often, honest people aren't so easy to bully. Everyone smirked at this, but none of them felt the urge to step forward and help Wang Yunxiao. Begin. Seeing Wang Yunxiao hesitate, Arnim urged again. Okay, Wang Yunxiao shrugged slightly helplessly, but didn't actually stand on the round platform. Instead, he squatted down and put his hands on the round platform. Although this posture was a bit strange, it didn't make it so awkward to stand on it. Today's fourth update is here. Please collect, recommend, and vote. Chapter 275 Visitors from Europe. Wang Yunxiao attempted to channel the special energy within his body into the circular table. The large and complex instrument immediately began to operate, emitting a soft humming sound. At that moment, everyone put aside their playful thoughts and turned their attention to Wang Yunxiao, the instrument, or the display in front of Arnim. The instrument's energy transmission pipeline gradually illuminated with a faint blue light. Furthermore, as Wang Yunxiao continued to channel special energy into the circular table, the cosmic cube on the other end of the table also flickered with a faint azure light. On the display in front of Arnim, rows of characters rapidly flashed by, and Arnim and the others stared intently, afraid to miss a single detail. Meanwhile, the women focused their full attention on Wang Yunxiao, fearing any mishaps. Furthermore, the characters on the display looked like scribbled characters to them. Success. Our previous hypothesis was correct, we just chose the wrong target. After an unknown amount of time, Arnim suddenly cried out in delight, echoing throughout the laboratory. Howard and the others also high-fived Arnim in celebration. Seeing this, Wang Yunxiao and the other women knew the test results were bound to be very promising. But Arnim's explanation was so incoherent that they couldn't understand what he was saying, leaving them feeling anxious. Hey, stop being so happy, and be considerate of us amateurs. Also, can I stop the energy transfer now? Wang Yunxiao asked irritably. You can stop now. Arnim finally recovered from his surprise and remembered Wang Yunxiao's presence. We had hypothesized that since the space stone's energy was infinite, the energy it could convert should also be unlimited. Unfortunately, we've been mistaken and chose the wrong energy storage medium. Arnim then began to explain the reasoning to Wang Yunxiao and the others. So, the cosmic cube has no energy storage limit? Wang Yunxiao asked quickly. At least, based on the test results so far, that's true. Arnim nodded excitedly, confirming Wang Yunxiao's point. Great. That's fantastic. Upon hearing this, even Wang Yunxiao couldn't help but burst with joy. This was exactly the result he'd hoped for. Thus, as long as enough special energy was stored within the cosmic cube, the effect Wang Yunxiao envisioned could be achieved. Perhaps, this wouldn't be able to conceal it from those with deep knowledge of the Infinity Stones, such as the Sorcerer Supreme, the Ancient One, but such individuals were a minority after all. As long as it could deceive the vast majority, it would be sufficient. Then, next, I'll ask you to streamline this giant as quickly as possible. I don't want to hold it around all day, Wang Yunxiao said jokingly, his mood brightening. No problem, Arnim agreed readily, not questioning Wang Yunxiao's specific requirements. Afterward, Wang Yunxiao discussed their future research directions with Howard and the others, and then each went off to their own endeavors, leaving Wang Yunxiao behind. While Arnim could further streamline the energy converter, it wouldn't be possible immediately. It would take time. During this time, Wang Yunxiao likely spent most of his time in Arnim's laboratory, diligently working on an energy emitter to store as much spatial energy as possible within the Tesseract. No matter what, Wang Yunxiao had to return the Tesseract to Lawson's spaceship before 1995, and then, through the hands of the Skrull survivors, return it to SHIELD. 2 months passed in a flash, and Arnim had developed a new energy converter, barely the size of a suitcase. Finally, Wang Yunxiao no longer had to spend all day in his lab, suffering the torment of his clacking and hammering. Furthermore, after 2 months of tireless work, the Tesseract had regained some of its former glory, no longer appearing so dim. While still a significant difference from its initial state, Wang Yunxiao believed that with more time, the Tesseract could be fully restored. During this time, Wang Yunxiao also took the opportunity to examine the mysterious space deep within his sea of consciousness. Sure enough, 2 new nebulae appeared within. The larger nebula was even larger than the one representing the Marvel Universe. This intrigued Wang Yunxiao. If the timing weren't so inopportune, he would have definitely explored these 2 new dimensions. As for developing his new spatial abilities, Wang Yunxiao's time was limited, and it would remain so for a long time to come. He could only wait until he had completely mastered the cosmic cube before slowly researching it. One day, Wang Yunxiao was once again in the Wakanda Palace, toiling away as his energy source. Suddenly, Selena approached. What happened? Wang Yunxiao's expression suddenly grew serious. If something major hadn't happened, why would Selena, already overwhelmed by her numerous concerns, come to him? Could it be that she had suddenly missed him and wanted to be with him? After all, after Charles and Bolivar successfully developed the Dead Apostle Serum, Selena had completely controlled the vampires of New York and even the entire United States. However, this also attracted the attention of the major vampire factions in Europe, even their old rival, the Vatican. Therefore, Selena's current burden, far from being lightened, has intensified. Perhaps, only by taking control of the entire invisible vampire empire can she truly relax. Just got word that someone's coming from Europe, Selena replied in a low voice. Which party? The Vatican, Wang Yunxiao asked hurriedly. He certainly didn't think the person coming was anything simple. The only thing that could have caused Selena to act so cautiously could be the European vampire ruling party or the Vatican. Wang Yunxiao, by comparison, didn't want to provoke the Vatican's fanatical lunatics just yet. At least, not until he had complete control of the invisible vampire empire. Of course, this wasn't to say that Wang Yunxiao was afraid of the Vatican, but a confrontation between the two would inevitably create countless complications for them to attack the European vampire ruling party. No. It's the Machinus family, one of the largest vampire families in Europe and also the ruling party. Moreover, the person who came is Princess Nisha, the apple of the eye of Grand Duke Eli. Although the person who came was not from the Holy See, Selena's expression did not relax much. Please collect, recommend, and vote for me. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.